So I briefly told you one thing that was in this case file. What was your reaction when I told you?
Well, my jaw definitely hit the floor. Like literally, I think I was sitting in bed and I was just like, because I was just gobsmacked.
Yeah.
But I've had time to ponder and dwell on it. So I will tell my thoughts as and where we get on to particular things.
Yeah, so for those of you who are wondering what we're going about, there has been a lawsuit levied against Vince McMahon, the owner of the WWE, and it's pretty bad. I've read through some of it already. We've got the whole 67 pages here to go through. I've seen a lot of YouTubers covering it, but no one's really read through the entire thing. So we're going to be here for a while. So I would suggest making a cup of tea and sitting back and listening, because this is a bit of a madness. If you want my opinion, my honest opinion, is that I'm not one of those people that is believe all victims. I think that you should wait until there's a substantial amount of evidence before you speak about something. The problem here is that this sounds like Vince McMahon. This sounds like him. Whenever I was watching Vince McMahon on TV, he played his villainous character, Mr. McMahon, right? The one that Stone Cold was always fighting with. And there was always a part of me that was like, I don't know if he's actually playing a character or if that's actually just him. And obviously there's people that have said nice things about Vince, but the problem with this is that there are so many previous wrestlers and previous employees that have said things similar to this. One of them is Ryback, who has been, I think for the past 8 years, been telling people how much of a dirtbag Vince McMahon is.
Yo, I'm the big guy Ryback. And I've been telling you guys the truth for almost 8 years on this piece of shit. Do I have your attention now?
He did pay hush money, I think up to like $5 million to some insane amount of money to some women, apparently, to keep them quiet over some stuff. I think rape allegations or something. And there's been like numerous stories about Vince throughout the years. And it's sad for me to hear, because I'm a massive wrestling fan. You grew up watching wrestling as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like that whole R. Kelly situation of, am I still allowed to listen to R. Kelly's music? It's kind of like, is it bad if I still want to watch and enjoy wrestling because, you know?
No, I think the company's so big that I can still tune into Monday Night Raw and enjoy it. You know, the wrestlers, they're not all going to be implicated in this.
You say that, but then look what happened with Balenciaga when it come out that the whole situation with them, no one wanted to buy or wear Balenciaga anymore.
Yeah, but Balenciaga's situation is a little bit different because there's so many different personalities within WWE that we know of. Balenciaga's just a brand. I don't really know anybody outside of the people that were named. I don't want to wear a brand that is associated with those sort of things. But say, for example, CM Punk has come back. If he has no involvement in this whatsoever and he's just a guy that works for the company, then you can't throw them under the bus, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, I'm not trying to, I don't know, throw people under the bus, essentially, if that's what we're going to call it. But there's just no way that so many people who are part of WWE did not know what was going on.
Yeah.
And even if they weren't part of it, just knowing about it and turning that blind eye to it, I think is equally just as bad.
Yeah, no, there's definitely people that knew what was going on. Now, one of the alleged people in this is named as a former UFC heavyweight champion. And there's only one WWE wrestler, to my knowledge, that is a former UFC heavyweight champion. And that is unfortunately Brock Lesnar. And the idea that Brock Lesnar would be involved in sex trafficking or anything even surrounding that is terrifying, because if Brock Lesnar tries to do anything to anyone, they're kind of like, they're screwed, right?
He also didn't turn up to the most recent WWE,
the Royal Rumble. Yeah, his part in the Royal Rumble. We're gonna get to these in a second, but just to give you some context, when this all came out, he was meant to be in the Royal Rumble and he was meant to be working a program with Dominic Mysterio, which is Rey Mysterio's son, and he was replaced by Braun Breaker, who's a wrestler on NXT. And Braun Breaker sort of did his whole, everything Brock was meant to do, Braun did it in the Rumble and he got eliminated by Dominic. We don't really know what's going on yet. Brock Lesnar seems to be the person named in this from what I've read, although I haven't read through everything yet. If he is the one implicated in this, then that's, his career with WWE is probably over. And John Laurinaitis has been named in this. if I'm being honest, I'm not surprised. John Laurinaitis always came across as a creep to me.
To be honest, yeah, this is exactly what I was going to say. Like, as shocking as this is, I'm actually just genuinely not surprised. And when you think about all of this sort of stuff that goes on in, I want to say America, because it mainly does take place in America, with these high, powerful, rich men, it's just, I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised about the Vince McMahon things, but we're gonna go through them because there's a lot here. And if you don't want to watch the whole thing, completely understand. But I've noticed that a lot of people have been leaving comments in other YouTubers sections saying, please cover the entire thing because it's insane. So we're gonna go through it. We're gonna be here for a while, and we'll give our thoughts whenever we see fit. And yeah, it just sucks. You know, before I came here, I was listening to Shawn Michaels' theme song.
Oh,
You know, I think I'm cute. I know I'm sexy. I got the looks.
why was you listening to it?
I love that song. Every guy loves that song. Anyway, so this has been filed by a woman called Janelle Grant. So it says plaintiff Janelle Grant, by and through her undersigned counsel, hereby files this complaint against defendants World Wrestling Entertainment, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, and John Laurinaitis, and the alleging as follows. Plaintiff Janelle Grant is a former employee of WWE who was the victim of physical and emotional abuse, sexual assault, and trafficking at the WWE. Miss Grant is filing this lawsuit not just to address her own suffering, but also to act for those who are afraid to speak out. So the premise is that there's going to be more people coming forward. I was listening to Ryback and some other wrestlers and people involved in the industry, and they were saying this is literally the tip of the iceberg, and that this is basically going to open a floodgate of all sorts of depraved activity. WWE's billionaire founder and executive chairman defendant Vincent Kennedy McMahon lived in a penthouse duplex in Miss Grant's apartment building. The two met in March 2019 when Miss Grant was dealing with profound grief and struggling financially. After devoting years to around-the-clock caregiving, her parents passed away. On top of that, she was unemployed and her family home was lost in her parents' bankruptcy. After her family passed away, Miss Grant dedicated herself to finding gainful employment. Neighbors in her building provided career advice and sought her assistance with personal events. Miss Grant used these non-paying roles and volunteer work in community initiatives to build her resume. The building's resident manager wanted to help. She messaged Mr. McMahon to ask whether he would talk to her, sharing that Miss Grant had been through hardship and would do great things if given a fresh start. McMahon enthusiastically responded, hell yes. McMahon befriended Miss Grant, giving her hopes of a new life with promises of a yet-to-be-determined role at the WWE and showering her with attention and assurances, along with gifts like a VIP experience at WrestleMania. But what seemed like a dream in the spring of 2019 quickly became a nightmare.
This sounds familiar.
Oh, yeah?
Well, yeah, it just sounds like Epstein. It sounds like Harvey Wines.
Oh, Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't even got to it yet, but just the way it was worded sounds like it's leading to, I'm going to give you all this, and in return, you need to give me this.
I do think one thing we should point out is that this woman at the time of this happening was 44 years old. So she is, I think a lot of people thought that she was like 18, 19. She was a grown woman when this happened, just to point that out. As McMahon dangled career-making and life-changing promises in front of Miss Grant, he demonstrated an increasing lack of boundaries. During several meetings that were ostensibly about a potential job at WWE, he greeted her in his underwear, touched her repeatedly, asked for hugs, and spent hours sharing intimate details about his personal life. Have you ever turned up to a meeting and someone's in their underwear? No, that's crazy. What the fuck? McMahon warned Miss Grant to keep their closeness secret, lest rumors lead to public trouble, and added that while he protects loyal people, he had world-class legal resources on speed dial to deal with people who became a problem. That sounds like a threat to me. Like, keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
And I believe him. He probably does have world-class legal people. As such, when Mr. McMahon pushed Miss Grant for a physical relationship in return for long-promised employment at WWE, she felt trapped in an impossible situation, submitting to McMahon's sexual demands or facing ruin. Miss Grant feared she had everything to lose and faced negative consequences no matter what happened. After succumbing to the pressure for a physical relationship, Miss Grant was slotted into an entry-level position as an administrator coordinator, position McMahon created for her in WWE's legal department. Miss Grant began work in that role on June 17th, 2019. So he's basically just made up a bullshit role to justify what's going to happen.
This is all quite recent as well.
Yeah,
it's not from like back in the day when I used to watch WWE.
This is old man Vince. He's 78 years old. So
he's 78.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's been in the game for a while.
Still going.
Yep. Well, remember one of his nicknames in the WWE was the genetic jackhammer, referencing his insatiable need to just he had like an obsession with like sex on camera. Like there was this unhealthy obsession. He even did a whole storyline where his actual wife, was in a wheelchair and like basically a vegetable. He was just making out of divas in front of her on TV, and I was like, who greenlit this? Because obviously they're acting, but WWE blurs the lines.
That's what it is. I'm acting, so I'm allowed to do this.
Yeah, he was all up in Trish's mouth, man. That shit was crazy.
Is that Trish Stratus?
Trish Stratus.
She's still going as well?
Yeah, she looks like she hasn't aged a day.
Fucking hell.
Miss Grant remained in that role with the exception of a temporary relocation to XFL, Extreme Football League, until McMahon verbally directed her to transfer to the Talent Relations Department, reporting to defendant John Laurinaitis on March 9th, 2021. So this is 2 years after her employment. During a conversation the same day, McMahon explained that her presence in the legal department was effectively delaying efforts to hire a new general counsel for the company. McMahon and Laurinaitis informed Miss Grant that she would be promoted to Vice President of Operations in the Talent Relations Department, providing her with an organizational chart reflecting this decision. Shortly after, they informed her that they needed her to begin at a lower level as a director, but promised her promotion to vice president after a 12-month period. Despite Miss Grant's expressions of unhappiness and attempts to end the sexual relationship, and while she came to understand that McMahon expected the physical relationship to continue as part of her employment, she had no idea how sordid it would become, nor how the psychological torture and physical violence would leave her feeling helpless, isolated, and trapped. There's a lot of contention about this online because people are saying, well, you're a 44-year-old woman. Why didn't you just quit when he was doing this? I don't know where to stand on it.
Yeah, it is difficult, but it's also the case of you knew what you was getting yourself into as well. Like you knew what he wanted, and you essentially agreed to it for the sake of getting your life back in order. Yeah,
this is the thing. Like, I understand, and I can't even begin to imagine the amount of power and influence Mr. McMahon has, or Vince McMahon. But at the same time, he showed up to a meeting in his underwear, and he probably told you, yo, this is what I want. I'm going to pay you a certain amount. You're going to get gifts. And the thing is that I can understand her entering the agreement under the basis that she's essentially a prostitute, right?
Yeah.
She's entering a prostitute agreement with Mr. McMahon. And I can understand entering it thinking I'm just going to be providing sex to this guy of a glorified position in the company, and then him turning more violent and his kinks coming out a bit more and you being like, whoa, what's going on? But then why wouldn't you walk away from it? From what I understand, she's not actually being held against her will. So I think, whilst I do think that Mr. McMahon's a scumbag, and what you're hearing these will confirm that, there's nothing so far that has made me think that she's trapped in the situation. In March 2020, McMahon began sharing sexually explicit photographs and videos of Miss Grant, including pornographic content he recorded, with other men both inside and outside the company, including with members of the television production tech team and the executives. That's crazy. So he was sharing her nudes and her videos.
Did she know? Does it say that she knew?
It doesn't specify if she knew. I don't know if he'd said that was part of the agreement.
But she would have had to take them nudes, no?
Oh yeah, she took those nudes for him 100%. And a world famous athlete and former UFC heavyweight champion with whom WWE was actively trying to sign a new contract and ultimately did sign that contract. Now, there is only one individual who went from the WWE to the UFC and won the heavyweight championship. And that man's Brock Lesnar. There's nobody else.
Yeah.
And it sucks because Yo, I read this and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I just bought Brock Lesnar t-shirts.
Shut up.
Yeah, I'll wear some of them on camera. The red top that I wear, it says Beast on it.
Really?
That's Brock Lesnar's top.
Oh damn.
I was looking at it and I was like, for fuck's sake, man.
Yeah,
Like,
throw that in the bin.
oh, 100%. If this turns out to be true, then
Yeah, but isn't this is going to be a long time coming?
oh, there's going to be plenty of updates. And the thing is that this is very recent. But Vince has been at the head of the table, so to speak, since before we were born. So, and I've heard stories about Vince for years about, depraved activity backstage. So if this is the beginning of it, we're probably going to be doing videos on this for a good year. I can only imagine the floodgates of women and potentially guys are going to come forward and say, yeah, this happened.
Yeah.
Given McMahon's omnipotent position at WWE, coercion was inherent in his increasingly depraved sexual demands. Specifically, while McMahon was CEO of WWE and Miss Grant was employed as an entry-level coordinator in the legal department, McMahon recruited individuals to have sexual relations with Miss Grant and or with the two of them, directed Miss Grant to visit defendant John Laurinaitis prior to the start of workdays for sexual encounters, and expected and directed Miss Grant to engage in sexual activity at the WWE headquarters, even during working hours. So while everybody's at Titan Towers working, he's got her in some cupboard doing God knows what to God knows who. I find this even more messed up. Now, I saw people saying that Vince McMahon is not some omnipotent being, but within the WWE, he 100% is. He's literally God in the WWE, or he was up until this came out. He was so powerful and influential that when he stepped down after the first sexual assault allegations came out,
Yeah.
he somehow forced his way back into the company and went straight to the top again.
So he's had sexual allegations against him before?
Yeah, he's had allegations levied against him before. I believe this might be the same woman that's levied them.
Really?
There are some other people that have been paid hush money, I believe. But he stepped down earlier this year. He was out. Triple H took over. And then within a month, he had come back and he was at the top of the food chain again.
Yeah, I mean, with his kind of money, he's going to have the best lawyers, the best everything, like...
Yeah, and his kind of
him.
power as well.
Yeah.
Like, make no mistake, Vince McMahon is not just rich, he's extremely powerful and well connected. All this time, McMahon ordered Miss Grant to keep their relationship secret unless otherwise instructed, including lying to maintain whatever cover stories he fabricated. McMahon's assurances that Miss Grant was safe and independent rang hollow in light of his efforts to isolate her from friends and attempts to chip away at her identity until it was replaced with his desired role for her as his bitch, his fantasy and or his porn star, while occasionally intermixing softer descriptors like girlfriend and baby, even love, when convenient. He exercised complete ownership and control over both her personal and professional lives. McMahon also subjected Miss Grant to acts of extreme cruelty and degradation that caused Miss Grant to disassociate and or become numb to reality in order to survive the horrific encounters. If this is true, this is really messed up. He literally broke her character down until she was basically his dog. As one example of McMahon's extreme depravity, on May 9th, 2020, he defecated on Miss Grant during a threesome and then commanded her to continue pleasuring his friend with feces in her hair and running down her back, while McMahon went to the bathroom to shower off. Upon his return from the bathroom, McMahon and his friend actively resumed the threesome, which lasted over an hour and a half, while Miss Grant remained covered in McMahon's filth. When McMahon's friend left, McMahon ordered her to stay and to continue to sexually gratify him. Insane.
So this is the first thing that you told me the other day, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's like I don't understand these people who have this power and just all they want to do is just be so disgusting and disrespectful to people, specifically women. And don't you remember there was that thing going on like a couple of years ago or last year where girls were getting flown out to Dubai and these men in Dubai would buy them whatever they wanted, but they were shitting on them.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand, like, how there ain't no way these people are mentally sane in their head by wanting to just, they've got all this power of money and just disrespect women and want to shit on them for their own pleasure. Like, what pleasure are you getting out of disrespecting someone like that?
I'll tell you why they do it. These men, the Vince McMahon types, are so powerful and so insanely rich that if Vince walked in here now and he accidentally left $5 million on the couch, he's not even going to think about it.
Yeah.
He's so he's a billionaire and he's unbelievably powerful.
Yeah.
Like, his power and maybe the respect that he's garnered within the industry goes far beyond money.
That's what it is. These people aren't used to hearing the words no from anyone. Anything they want, they can have. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, okay, for example, have you seen the Hostel movies?
Yeah.
Where these people are just so rich, so they just spend their money on torturing innocent people, because these people just, what else can they do with their lives? They've done everything, they've had everything, and they're searching for that next, I don't know, thrill. But I just think it's really messed up in their head for it to be that. And we judge a lot of other people for a lot of other dumb shit they do. But the real sickos are the people who have the most money and are high up in these powerful positions.
Yeah, it's like the old saying goes, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't believe that completely. I believe there are genuinely good people that can get into positions of power and do genuinely good things all their life. But I think when you give that power to the wrong person, their sick side comes out, because there's nothing that can stop them. They're completely enabled. If McMahon makes another $5 million today, it doesn't actually make a difference to him. He can buy anything he wants.
Yeah.
So his power is that it reaches far beyond our understanding. So because he has everything through money, he's turned into humiliating people, because this is where he gets his sick thrills from. Because to us, if we got £1 million, we'd be over the moon. We'd be like, oh, let's go on holiday, let's buy nice cars, let's go help people, let's do all these things. But he's seen that money over and over again. He's been at the top of the food chain for years. He's had a bunch of yes men around him, people covering his tracks. He's basically gone unchecked.
There really is so much that you can do in this life, though, that it doesn't need to resort to that.
It's true. There's so many things that you can do. Like, whenever people give Mr. Beast a hard time, I'm just like, you people are idiots.
There's different projects as well that you could start up. There's endless things you can do.
Yeah, I mean, look at Mr. Beast's videos. He gets like 89 million to 100 million views per video, probably more than that, and then he'll use that money and reinvest it into another video where he's helping people, and people shit on him for that because he's recording it. Where's he going to get the money from? He makes his money from YouTube, so he has to record it, dummies. Like, they get onto Mr. Beast, but these are the real animals.
But regardless if he's recording it or not, the good deed is still being done. Whether it came from a good place or not as well, it's still something good being given back.
He literally restored water and gave food back to villages that didn't have it. Restored blindness. I didn't even know that was a thing. Paid for eye surgery and whatnot. So, anyway. In June 2021, McMahon and defendant Laurinaitis sexually assaulted Miss Grant inside Laurinaitis' office in WWE headquarters while colleagues were busy at their desks. Behind the locked door, the two men cornered her and pulled her in between them, forcibly touched her, before ultimately putting her on top of a table in between them. She begged them to stop, but they forced themselves on her, each taking turns restraining her for the other while saying no means yes and take it, bitch. Well, there is really no coming back from this. If this all turns out to be true, and like I said, I'm not a believe all victims kind of person, but when it comes to Vince McMahon, I can't sit here and lie and be like, oh, you know, maybe this, maybe it all sounds, it kind of fits the character in my opinion. Unsurprisingly, others at WWE knew what was going on, but instead of intervening to protect Miss Grant, WWE actively sought to conceal the wrongdoing. In January 2022, McMahon told Miss Grant that his wife had found out about their relationship, purportedly to avoid divorce, negative publicity, and other repercussions. McMahon said that Miss Grant's time at WWE was at an end, but that he wanted her to sign an NDA to ensure her silence on, among other things, his personal misconduct. So he essentially had his way with her, and now she's used up. Gonna make her sign a form to never speak about it. In the days ahead, McMahon put Miss Grant under immense pressure to sign, saying that refusing would not only jeopardize McMahon, his family, and the company, but that she'd surely become a public headline, suffer reputational ruin, including from the pornographic content McMahon had captured and faced McMahon's legal resources. Conversely, McMahon reassured her that her signature would ensure his continued support and protection and safeguard her reputation. Ultimately, Miss Grant succumbed to the pressure and signed the NDA in exchange for payments, which McMahon later stopped making. This is like when gangsters come to your shop and they say, pay the protection money. This is what it feels like. He comes across like a thug, like an actual bully. Even after pushing Miss Grant out of the company and muzzling her with an NDA, McMahon continued efforts to exploit her, including attempting to traffic her to a WWE star who would be in New York City for a live event and TV taping in March 2022. Understandably, defendants' predatory conduct that has left Miss Grant crippled both physically and mentally, including from debilitating symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder and suicidal ideations. These symptoms led to her termination from her subsequent job running her building's operations due to her inability to leave her home for a few weeks at a time. Despite McMahon's promise of reputational protection, WWE appears to have leaked information that led to the public disclosure of her name by a media blogger who cited a source in WWE with direct knowledge of the situation, which, upon information and belief, was an overt intimidation tactic aimed at Miss Grant. WWE has also attempted to sweep the matter under the rug following media reports that McMahon was involved in a hush money payment scandal. WWE released a statement in June 2022 to announce that a special committee of its board of directors was investigating the alleged misconduct and appointing Stephanie McMahon as interim CEO and interim chairwoman. Now, obviously, Stephanie's his daughter, right?
Yeah.
Apparently, Stephanie's quite well loved in backstage, and when she came in, people were apparently very happy. As soon as McMahon weaseled his way back in, she left immediately. And now it kind of makes sense why she did. I think she knew what was going on and she didn't want any part of it. As far as I can see, she's distanced herself from her dad for quite some time now. And she made a smart move. But what I would say is that there's a lot of people that are close to Vince McMahon. And right now, the person running the operations is Triple H. And I wonder if Triple H knew what was going on.
I think absolutely.
They asked him by a press conference the other day after the Royal Rumble finished, and he said he hadn't read this. And I was like, well, that's got to be a lie. Of course, you must have heard about this at the very least.
These people, they're all media trained. They would have like had legal advice given to them beforehand. They would have been told, don't engage in this, do that. Of course, they're kept up to date with it. It's to do with.
It's his father-in-law.
It's their company that they're working at. Do you know what I mean? If you're telling me if my boss at work had something like this happen, I wouldn't know, but of course I would.
In this capacity, Miss McMahon publicly affirmed her commitment to doing everything in her power to help the special committee complete its work and to implement its findings. She also declared the importance of a safe and collaborative workplace. Notwithstanding this public statement, the investigation was a sham. In November 2022, WWE touted the conclusion of the special committee investigation into the misconduct, yet the special committee never even bothered to interview Ms. Grant or request any documents despite Ms. Grant stating that she would cooperate. That's suspicious. In SEC filings, the company tried to divert attention away from McMahon's abuse of women by focusing on the technical issues of how hush money was accounted for. In the words of the company, the issue was immaterial accounting errors related to certain payments that Mr. McMahon agreed to make during the period from 2006 through to 2022. Emphasis added. Through all this trauma, Miss Grant has endured profound suffering in silence, feeling of exploitation, loss of security, and the fear of facing the wrath of WWE and McMahon's army of attorneys if she were to come forward and bring to light the egregious acts detailed herein. That time has passed, and Miss Grant seeks to hold defendants accountable for their reprehensible and unlawful acts. For her own sake and for others, Miss Grant seeks a declaratory judgment for that her NDA is invalid under federal and state laws and asserts claims other laws, including the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. You know, the government and the law have been trying to get Mr. McMahon for a long time. And back in the 90s, they tried to get him on steroid abuse. There's been other things they've been trying to get him on. You best believe they are going to hunt him down now. Like, I think this time he's actually fucked. If this turns out to be true,
but you know what? He's old now. He's done his life. He's done all this horrible stuff. What, he's going to go prison for how many more years?
Yeah.
And do you know what I mean?
It's especially bad because the WWE just signed a deal to Netflix where they were going to, Monday Night Raw was going to become the exclusive home of or Netflix was going to become the exclusive home of Monday Night Raw. And they signed that for $5 billion. And then WWE and UFC have also merged to create the TKO company. And then this has all come out at the same time. Defendant John Laurinaitis, an Arizona citizen, is the former head of talent relations and general manager at WWE, who on information and belief was officially dismissed by WWE in August 2022 and amid allegations of misconduct by women in WWE. I've heard so many stories about John Laurinaitis or Johnny Ace, depending on like what you know him by, that I'm honestly not surprised that he's implicated in this. He was one of Vince's right-hand mans. After her family passed away, Miss Grant dedicated herself to finding gainful employment. During this time, Miss Grant often ran into McMahon's 2 personal assistants in her building, one of whom was a former grade school classmate of Miss Grant. Miss Grant's closest friend in the building was the resident manager. That individual is referred to here as resident manager. Similar in personality, Miss Grant and resident manager bonded over stories of adversity as they coordinated community initiatives in the building together. Resident manager was aware of Miss Grant's efforts to obtain employment. McMahon shared stories about his upbringing, his traumatic childhood, growing up in poverty, and current family dynamics, including his separation from Linda McMahon, described as his ex and long gone. He added his martial status is an arrangement on paper for business purposes and that he lives a quiet, isolated existence outside of WWE. I'm surprised Linda didn't divorce him sooner, to be honest.
Isn't it marital status?
What did I say?
Marshall.
Oh,
I could be wrong.
Yeah, it is marital. I'm reading really quickly. At the end of...
Can I just do something? Yeah. Sorry, I've got OCD. Thank you.
At the end of the meeting, McMahon told Miss Grant that he didn't just want to give her a job, but give her a life, and that he would find a place for her at the WWE. Stunned, Miss Grant said that she didn't know how to thank him for possibly just changing my life. McMahon responded that one simple thank you is enough and that he'd accept a hug. They stood and embraced. Oh, well, that was a lie. McMahon then told Miss Grant that he'd get the ball rolling on next steps, but it was a busy time of the year as WWE prepared for WrestleMania, explaining that it was WWE's Super Bowl. This guy's doing a madness during WrestleMania. Do you think all those times he's always said that he's been staying late at the office, he was doing shit like this?
Absolutely.
Because he was always like, yeah, I never go home, man. I'm always working.
Absolutely. They will find time to fit it in any minute that they can throughout the day. Probably had to stay late because he was doing that during the day.
Yeah.
Didn't get his work done.
He then invited Miss Grant to attend his guest as his guest along with resident manager, and added that he would personally select their seats to have the best possible experience. McMahon advised her that his office would reach out to her to set up a meeting with a trusted official, WWE Corporate Officer number 2 at WWE headquarters. After asking if her cell was the best number to reach her on, McMahon shared his personal phone number with Miss Grant, walked her to his door, and again hugged her while whispering, "So good." That's creepy. That is. Can you imagine someone doing that to you, hugging you, going, "So good"? That's mad.
Ugh.
That's mad. McMahon arranges for Miss Grant to be hired by WWE while beginning to groom her for sexual exploitation. This was all calculated by the sounds of it. On March 31st, 2019, the day before Miss Grant was scheduled to meet with WWE Corporate Officer number 2, McMahon unexpectedly invited Miss Grant to come back to his condo for pointers for her meeting with WWE Corporate Officer number 2. When she arrived, McMahon gave, I can only imagine what he's going to give her, a huge embrace. He loves his hugs, isn't it? And suggested they sit on the couch.
Like, you know them guys in school that would always be like, "Where's my hug?" I hope you wasn't one of them.
You know I'm not like that.
Right, well, it's that loser guy behavior. Where's my hug?
Yeah.
He's a loser. That's why he's like this. He's got all this power and he's now abusing it. Because without the fame, without the money, without the power, he'd be a loser.
Yeah. Who said it? Someone said that Vince McMahon is literally a 5-year-old stuck in an old man's body. He behaves like a child. It quickly became clear that McMahon had no intention of giving her pointers for an interview except for a single direction. If the topic comes up during her meeting, Miss Grant could state they met through a mutual friend. During this meeting, McMahon described a surgery he had on his knee by touching Miss Grant's leg and drawing a line where the surgery had taken place with his finger. He stated that similar to rehabbing an injury, Miss Grant cannot let scar tissue build up inside her from trauma, as her vulnerability is a gift. McMahon explained that people are intimidated around him and are afraid to touch him. I think they don't want to touch you because you're 78 years old, mate. McMahon added that he is an affectionate person who likes to hug and starves for physical affection. McMahon then led Miss Grant on a tour of his condo before hugging her goodbye again, whispering, "Feels so good." Bro, that is so cringy, man. Can you imagine this, like, steroid-induced, worm-looking dude trying to hug you constantly? On April 1st, 2019, Miss Grant met with WWE Corporate Officer Number 2 at WWE headquarters for a short time. WWE Corporate Officer Number 2 hardly asked any questions, saying that WWE Corporate Officer Number 2 was figuring out where Miss Grant would be placed and then promised to be in touch again after WrestleMania. Later that day, Miss Grant texted Mr. McMahon and enthusiastically described her meeting with WWE Corporate Officer Number 2. She also commented on a dinosaur skull that she saw on McMahon's office wall, prompting his response, "By the way, if you're a bad girl, the T-Rex will eat you."
What is that even supposed to mean?
I'm not entirely sure. Followed by, "Seriously, Janelle, wherever you land in WWE, you will be a credit to the organization." That's all you should have said. What's the T? What? I don't even get the T-Rex, Riz.
Is someone like called T-Rex or something? Like a nickname or?
No, he's just got a T-Rex on his wall, like someone would have a goat's head or something.
Right.
Oh dear. On April 7th, 2019, Miss Grant and resident manager were provided a VIP experience at WrestleMania, including private transportation in a black SUV arranged by McMahon. Per McMahon's instructions, Miss Grant diligently took notes about her impressions. Miss Grant left overwhelmed with emotion and feeling hopeful that everything McMahon promised was becoming a reality. Over the next several weeks, McMahon invited Miss Grant to his condo on several occasions, each time assuring her that he would find the right position for her at WWE. For each meeting with McMahon, Miss Grant brought sample job descriptions she found online to review with him and demonstrate the types of roles she might fit in. McMahon listened to Miss Grant, asked her questions, and pointed out qualities that he described as rare gifts, including her goodness, childlike innocence, that is, okay, an ability to be vulnerable, all things that made her an easy target. McMahon also initiated long physical embraces with Miss Grant, repeatedly telling her that he trusted her, that he could be himself around her, and now he'd open his home to her. What I don't understand about this is he's 100% being a creep, but doesn't she realize that she's talking to the CEO of a giant company? Yeah. Why does she think he's taking time out specifically for her when there's hundreds of women? There's hundreds of beautiful women that work at the WWE. Why is he taking time out specifically to talk to her?
Yeah,
I would think it's suspicious. I would have thought he'd put two and two together there, but during one visit to the condo late in April 2019, McMahon did not greet Miss Grant when she entered, but instead called her to his master walk-in closet. As soon as she turned the corner, McMahon emerged from his bathroom wearing only briefs. Shocked, Miss Grant turned around and apologized. McMahon laughed and asked her to turn around. He then handed her a shirt and asked for help with the buttons. McMahon reminded her that he was working hard on her role and said he felt good about her taking care of him. Around that time, McMahon also told Miss Grant that he would never forget how helpless she looked when they first met, that he wanted to wrap his arms around her and assured her that everything is going to be okay and that Miss Grant's problems were in the past. McMahon also told Miss Grant that he viewed her as a true friend. However, McMahon advised Miss Grant that people at WWE could never know about their closeness or else rumors would spawn and threaten them. That's a red flag, because if she's just your friend, then why can't people know about her? McMahon also emphasized that the circumstances could jeopardize the company around this time. He mentioned that he had an attorney on speed dial whom he described as best for business or best of the best, at making problems, including people who become problems, go away. He sounds like a gangster. That's literally a threat. On April 21st, 2019, McMahon unexpectedly invited Miss Grant to his condo to provide her with an update. Upon her arrival, McMahon assured her, Miss Grant, that he was a man of his word, that his office would be in touch with her soon with the right role. As she turned to leave, McMahon grabbed a large black electric massager and told Miss Grant to turn around for a demonstration. He quickly moved to rubbing his hands on Miss Grant's upper back before reminding her that she would hear from his office about next steps in a day or two. 2 days later, Miss Grant was contacted about further meetings at WWE. A week later, she met with two high-ranking human resources employees referred to herein as Human Resources Employee 1 and 2. Both Human Resources employees provided Miss Grant with their impressions about company culture at WWE and confirmed that the ball was in their court to figure out where she would best fit in at the WWE. On May 5th, 2019, Miss Grant visited McMahon's condo again, and the topic of bucket lists came up during which Miss Grant expressed that she always dreamed of attending the Belmont Stakes. Don't know what that is. McMahon responded that he would personally acquire 2 tickets for her, which Miss Grant said she could not accept. Why did you mention it to him? Do you know what?
She's gone to his place as well and mentioned it.
How are you not putting 2 and 2? I don't mean to victim blame, because I'm not defending McMahon. I'm willing to bet the truth is probably somewhere in the middle with this. But I don't think she's being completely truthful, if I'm being honest. McMahon then stood up from his chair and knelt in front of the chair where Miss Grant was seated, blocking her from standing. He leaned close to Miss Grant and told her to kiss him. Miss Grant paused and gave McMahon a kiss on the cheek, to which McMahon sighed, "That's not what I meant." After McMahon walked off to his bedroom and said that he wanted Miss Grant, she swiftly rejected his advances and tried to reason with him that he was putting her in a bad position. Miss Grant pled with McMahon to stop and think about what he was doing. McMahon then begged repeatedly simply to hold Miss Grant out of fear for her employment and his earlier implied threats about his legal team dealing with problems. Miss Grant lay down in bed next to McMahon and kept her hands clasped and ankles crossed as she acquiesced in saying that he could only hold her, but nothing more. When Miss Grant tried to make a small talk about WWE's TV storylines, McMahon suggested she watch the next episode of Monday Night Raw and text him before the broadcast. After she agreed, he forcibly kissed her and began pulling down a strap on his sweater. Miss Grant then sat up and said she needed to leave and had a lot to process and left. At this point, this is where you can clearly see what he's going to do. I understand you're in a tough position, but you know where this is going. You know it's not just going to end at hugs and kisses. This is where you walk away. As far as I can tell in this, correct me if I'm wrong, nothing in here said he's held her against her will.
No, at the moment, no.
So far, all we've read is that he's a sex-deprived scumbag and that he's using his power to try and get this girl in bed. But she's not being held against her will. The next day, Miss Grant watched the show as promised and texted Mr. McMahon to wish him well. She was shocked when he appeared on the show and texted back in the middle of the live broadcast. That was a very nice message, made me smile. On May 9th, 2019, McMahon texted Miss Grant that she will have a job at WWE by that Friday. The next day, Human Resource Employee number 2 called Miss Grant to inform her that the WWE Corporate Officer number 4 would contact her at 4 p.m. to discuss a legal role. After the call of the corporate officer, Miss Grant sent McMahon a thumbs up text message to indicate the call went well. Around 7 p.m., WWE Corporate Officer number 4 unexpectedly called her a second time and formally offered her a job, saying, "Welcome to the WWE." I can understand like being a fan of the WWE or being offered a role in their company is a massive deal. But I don't think it's worth sucking 78-year-old dick for it. That's just me personally. I would love to work. I've always wanted, I think every guy at some point has wanted to either work for the UFC or WWE. But there's no way that I'm partaking in tomfoolery with Mr. McMahon. You must be insane. On May 11th, 2019, McMahon invited Miss Grant to his condo again and asked her to lay in bed with him before informing her that he had ordered WWE Corporate Officer number 4 to offer her the job, even though a job description had not been firmed up beyond a high-level summary. While incredibly excited to finally receive long-awaited employment and financial security, Miss Grant expressed to McMahon that there seemed to be a conflict between his doing this and his warning to Miss Grant that no one could know about their closeness. He appeared amused with this, replying, "It's my company." McMahon then undressed down to his briefs while Miss Grant remained clothed, and he began kissing Miss Grant and inserting his hands into her pants without consent. What is your take on this so far?
I mean, okay, so this is explaining the early days, the leading up to it.
Yeah.
So I think that she probably didn't want him doing the things he was doing, but I don't think that she would have tried to stop him because she's en route to a really good job and a really good career, considering how down bad she was with her life before she started talking to him. So from the offset at the moment, it seems as though she knew what she was getting herself in for to begin with, like what she may have to do to get her foot through the door. I just don't think that she maybe anticipated it going on for as long as it did or getting as bad as it did. And now all of this beginning bit is, I don't want to say being fabricated, but it's being built up more, obviously, to take him down. I think that he's probably a scumbag that deserves everything he's getting? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he's still wrong for doing what he's doing. I'm not condoning it, but I think initially she knew what she was signing up for.
I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Like, she knew what she was doing. She may not have liked it, but when she talks about consent, she's already been to his apartment like a couple of times before this, and he's already been in his underwear, asked her to get in bed, kissed her, touched her, hugged her, said weird things. If you go back again, I understand the desire to work for the WWE must be great, especially if you're in a bad position. You're going from zero to hero.
Bankruptcy, yeah, you're desperate. You're going to do whatever you need to do to get there.
Yeah.
It's like, women who are, type of workers. They probably don't necessarily want to do that, but they're in a situation where they're financially stuck and maybe don't know what other directions to turn to. She didn't mention within that he done that without consent, and she said no, and then he said yes. Like, it just cut off there.
Yeah. On May 16, 2019, McMahon informed Miss Grant that he had obtained 2 tickets to the Belmont Stakes scheduled for June 8, 2019. On May 17, 2019, Miss Grant received an offer letter from WWE for an entry-level job as legal administrator coordinator with a salary of $75,000. Her life has basically been flipped on its head with that kind of money. On May 18, 2019, McMahon summoned Miss Grant to his condo, and she brought a printed copy of the offer later to review it. McMahon informed Miss Grant that her new boss, a WWE employee who worked in risk and government relations, referred to herein as WWE employee number 1, was a decades-long family friend and confidant, similar in age to McMahon, and one of a small original group with a man called the Titan family, who helped the WWE expand from a regional promotion to a global juggernaut. I wonder who that is. I wonder who that could be.
Are you being sarcastic, or you're genuinely wondering?
No, I genuinely wonder who that is. There's not that many people at that level. McMahon stated that outside of his attorney, WWE employee number 1 was the most feared figure in the company because I know who it is.
Who is it?
I think it's... obviously, this is all alleged, but I think it's probably... He has recently just disappeared from the company as well. And he's worth a lot of money.
Convenient.
Very convenient. Beyond that, he offered little detail about WWE employee number 1's role at WWE. Instead, he focused on WWE employee number 1's personal traumas, explaining that similar to Miss Grant, this person has no family left after WWE employee 1's spouse passed away, and that McMahon and WWE were basically his surrogate family or her surrogate family. McMahon touted WWE employee number 1's loyalty, saying that this person would be able to protect Miss Grant, and then led her to his bedroom. Well, bless you. Are you okay? Are you the tissue?
No, but please cut that out.
So he led her to his bedroom while giving her the command of, "Please don't stop this." During the May 18, 2019 encounter, Miss Grant felt coerced into engaging in sexual activity and that McMahon had trapped her in an impossible situation as she feared adverse career and personal consequences and legal retaliation if she declined his advances. McMahon stated, "This is what I have been waiting for," as he performed oral sex on Miss Grant. Miss Grant asked that protection be used, and McMahon responded that there was no need to worry because he was clean. Feeling that she was being used for his gratification, Miss Grant went numb and was unable to make eye contact. McMahon then flipped on his back and said, "Okay, jack him off."
Oh my God.
Disturbed by the non-consensual sexual encounter that she hoped that McMahon would cease his advances, but his advances continued and left her to fulfill his demands to lose her job. On June 16th, 2019, the day before starting with WWE, Miss Grant attempted to shut down any physical contact or sexual encounters by admitting to McMahon her unhappiness and concern starting her first ever job in his legal department, no less. While in a physical relationship with the chairman and CEO, she requested that they end any physical relationship while remaining friends to avoid any risks to either of them. The balls on this man to put her in his legal department whilst he's doing this. The legal department, of all departments.
That's what I was thinking this whole time. Like, are you just, trying to help her take you down?
That's literally someone that thinks he's God.
Yeah.
He put her in a position that could get him in trouble because he literally thinks he's untouchable.
Yeah.
McMahon refused, saying that it was not ending, it did not need to, and that he did not ever envision it ending. He reminded her that he trusted her, reiterated that rumors would lead to trouble, probed whether her silence would be an issue, and brushed off her concerns that she was struggling with the feeling that the job felt unearned. What do you mean struggling with the feeling the job felt unearned? Even if he wasn't doing this, and just to make it clear it's wrong, it would have been unearned anyway. Because initially he just got you the job because you needed help. You didn't earn it. If he was a nice guy, it would have been unearned.
Yeah.
McMahon told Miss Grant that all she needed to do was not tell anyone and that it has to look legit. McMahon then spun the conversation and told Miss Grant to focus on the positives and embrace that her life was about to change, saying, "Isn't that what you've always wanted?" McMahon manipulatively emphasized that she's about to start an adventure and gain a new family with the WWE as a surrogate for the family that she had lost. That is a very Jeffrey Marsh sounding talk right there, right? We're your new family. You got nowhere to turn because you lost yours.
It's manipulative as well.
Yeah, it makes you feel like you've got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Ultimately, Miss Grant's unsuccessful attempt to end further unwanted physical contact quickly taught her that her view on the matter was not relevant. Miss Grant's WWE career commences, minimal work and an absent boss. Well, yeah, because it's a fake job, basically. Like, he gave you a role to have sex with you. That's all it was. On June 17th, 2019, Miss Grant reported to WWE headquarters for her first day of work. With attorneys in glass offices and support staff in cubicles with low walls and tall monitors, it was easy to see how much other colleagues worked. As a quiet and small department, it was even easier to overhear their conversations. Miss Grant was immediately surprised that there was not much work assigned to her. Really? You're surprised that there was not much work assigned to you? Although I feel sorry for her because this is pretty disgusting, she's also coming across like a bit of a donut. If you were hired to be someone's sex toy, basically, would you expect them to throw tons of work at you? It doesn't make any sense. It's a glorified position. She was struggling to even appear busy in her new role. In stark contrast to her colleagues who complained about overflowing inboxes, Miss Grant's phone only overflowed with controlling and sexually charged text messages from the chairman and CEO, reminding her both of McMahon's power and ever-present surveillance. Do you know what I've never understood about these people? Someone in McMahon's position should know that texting these sort of things is always going to be a record of it, right?
Yeah.
Unless he's actively getting her to delete her messages constantly. So why, if he's that omnipotent within the company, he's that powerful, why would he even need to send a text message? Other than the fact that he's so just deranged that he wants to just constantly be on her.
Yeah, but this is the thing as well. I think going practically your whole life of never getting caught, he probably would have never expected it now. Do you know what I'm saying? So anything he's doing, text messages he's sending and stuff, he's not seeing it as this is a risk to me. It's just his way of life now.
Yeah, no, you're right, yeah. Colleagues shared onboarding stories with Miss Grant and talked about receiving pre-made binders of information or the opportunity to shadow departing employees, none of which happened for Miss Grant, nor did anyone know what her unusual title of administrator coordinator meant. Miss Grant did not even meet WWE employee number 1 until her second week of employment. WWE employee number 1 was a lively individual who frequently regaled the legal department with stories of others at WWE. If McMahon's name was mentioned, WWE employee number 1 would turn to Miss Grant with a smile, a finger point, and or a comment that drew attention to her connection to McMahon, such as, "She knows what I'm talking about." WWE employee number 1 and Miss Grant bonded as quickly as McMahon had predicted. Miss Grant, referred to as partner, was taught words to live by in WWE, including, "We do what's in the best interest of the company, protect the business, and if McMahon wants something, the answer isn't no, but rather, how do we make it happen?" WWE employee number 1 also impressed on Miss Grant's that job titles don't mean anything for members of McMahon's inner circle, which she clearly considered to be a part of. As WWE employee number 1 was seldom in the office and required little administrative support, Miss Grant reported indirectly to another WWE employee within the legal department, referred to herein as WWE employee number 2, who provided her with occasional projects related to talent appearances at an XFL that helped fill Miss Grant's time. XFL is the football league that he owned, and The Rock then bought it from him.
The Rock owns it now.
Yeah, The Rock owns it. It's now called X something L. They merged with another football league to make a bigger one. But yeah, The Rock's like the owner. The Rock's also on the TKO board of directors, so he's right at the top of WWE.
Wow. Yeah, hope nothing comes out about The Rock. That would be truly devastating. I mean, I doubt it anyway, but that is...
Based on her hiring alone, WWE corporate officer number 2 was on notice that there was something different about Miss Grant, namely her connection to McMahon. As Miss Grant feared, she had expressed to McMahon she was unhappy that a spotlight was unnecessarily put on her before she ever set foot in the office. Miss Grant immediately noticed that WWE corporate officer number 2 was warm with other colleagues but cold towards her. Beginning in July 2019, after Miss Grant raised an issue related to XFL's performance-enhancing drug policy with McMahon, WWE corporate officer number 4's behavior shifted from cold to actively hostile. If Miss Grant walked into a room while WWE corporate officer number 4 was laughing with colleagues, his expression or her expression would immediately become blank, and WWE corporate officer number 4 would walk away. If this individual, Miss Grant, walked towards each other in a hallway, this individual stopped and changed directions. Colleagues noticed this shift in behavior, while some commented on it to Miss Grant, others emulated it. Notwithstanding the issues detailed above, Miss Grant took her employment seriously. In contrast, McMahon continued a pattern of sending sexually charged messages throughout the work week. Certain her employment depended on her continued appeasement of and obedience to McMahon, and believing she needed McMahon's protection from the suspicious WWE corporate officer number 4 and others. Miss Grant felt no choice but to respond in kind. From all this, Miss Grant began to experience debilitating panic attacks in the office on a near daily basis that left her physically drained. She could not hide the physical symptoms of these attacks and texted resident manager, "You should see the way people look at me when I'm having an attack." But while her co-workers noticed, no one dared get involved. McMahon's coercive control tactics to sexualize and dehumanize Miss Grant. I think this is where it's going to get spicy. In the summer of 2019, McMahon's presence was all-consuming in Miss Grant's life. In the office, she felt monitored as she was surrounded by allies of McMahon, which led to continued daily panic attacks. Outside the office, McMahon sexualized her entirely. He no longer referred to her as a friend and largely stopped talking to Miss Grant outside of sexting and fantasy talk. Any non-sexual texts related to life and or work were either ignored or given token responses like okay or yep.
Wow.
As detailed herein, McMahon was adamant about having Miss Grant send him explicit photographs, impressing upon her that it was part of her sexuality. Given the control that McMahon had over Miss Grant's employment, she felt compelled to comply and sent the explicit photographs to McMahon's mobile device. Miss Grant was routinely assured that the photographs she was providing to McMahon were to remain private and were part of their secret world. McMahon began to degrade Miss Grant, calling her his bitch, while hinting at a fascination with having other people watch them engage in sexual activity. This guy's insane. Additionally, this complaint details encounters during which McMahon caused Miss Grant to sustain physical injuries, including bleeding and pain from forceful use of sex toys. Despite Miss Grant's plea to cease any further sexual activity, the number of sexual encounters increased, as did McMahon's physical aggression with them.
The thing is that if it gets to a point like this where it's really bad, like, what's the worst that can happen if you say no? He might fire you, or you might have to quit. But either way, surely, now that you've got your foot through the door for this job, right, that will open the door for you for other job opportunities. You could pretty much go to any TV show or anything in that industry, show them you've got experience of working in the law sector of WWE. You're not going to struggle to find work with that experience behind you. And do you know what I'm saying? You've been put back on your feet. You've got the experience behind you now. Surely quitting this job is better for your mental health than sitting there going through all of that.
Well, now at this point, I'm wondering if he has dirt on her that she's scared to get out. Like, if he's taken some really bad pictures of her. Because, like they say some of these, like, allegedly, some of these Hollywood types and these politicians would have, like with the Epstein thing, apparently he had really, really messed up pictures of politicians doing things. And he's like, listen, if you step out of line, these are going to get out.
Yeah, no, but for him to expose it, he'd have to expose himself, no?
Well, this is the thing. If he's as powerful as people say, a cover-up job could be quite easy for someone. For some people like us that don't have that level of power, pulling off something like this would take our, like, some divine intervention.
Yeah.
But for him, it's like click of a finger. He's got a whole army to do his bidding. He can probably even get the media to spin a story for him. So at this point, I think she's put her foot right in it, and now she's really in it, and he probably does have something messed up on her, and she probably feels too scared to speak out about it. But I'm just sort of like trying to piece all of these things together. This is all alleged. We don't know how true any of this is yet. And notably, McMahon was most aggressive when using the certain sex toys named after male WWE wrestlers and performers.
They have sex toys?
No, he's got sex toys and he's named them after wrestlers.
Oh my God.
This guy is insane. That's mad.
Where's the Eddie Guerrero?
McMahon named the sex toys so that the color of the toy matched the race of the wrestler. For example, a black dildo could be named after an African-American wrestler, and a white dildo would be named after a Caucasian wrestler. He was literally coming in with dildos and saying, "Here, here's Biggie,
his Booker T.
Yeah, his Big Show." Oh, come on, man!
Drop me out!
Insane, McMahon. That is absolutely diabolical.
It's sick in the head if you think about it, and it's like all of these wrestlers who are on the show just probably actually didn't even know he was naming sex toys after them. That's creepy and weird. And he's walking out and talking to them after forcefully using a toy on her, saying this is Rey Mysterio or whatever. Like, that's
insane. Do you know what really upset me is that apparently people close to him knew what was going on, and the wrestler closest to him that's not like on the corporate ladder is, as far as I'm aware, The Undertaker. I'm just like, if I hear that The Undertaker was involved in this shit, I'm gonna be so upset. I
reckon a lot of people knew what he was doing or what he was like, but I don't think they knew to the extent of how bad it was or what he was really doing behind the scenes. I reckon they probably knew that he was forcing girls to have sex with him. But I reckon they knew he was probably doing it as and where he wanted, but I reckon the limit was there. I don't think they knew that he's shitting on girls and shit like that.
Taking a shit on someone. And don't forget, they were having a threesome. He took a shit on her head, went to have a shower, the shit's still on her head. Yeah. She's still performing the sexual act on the other guy whilst the shit is on her.
He's done it because he can. And if you think about it, as soon as he sort of got what he wanted, he started calling her like a bitch and things like that. And it just shows that it's because he has no respect for these people, and because he's giving them all this stuff, he thinks I can do whatever I want now, and that's it. And that's why he is behaving in such a manner, because he can.
Yeah. He's literally untouchable in WWE, or was up until this point. In addition to McMahon's infatuation with pretending that other men, and namely certain WWE talent, were in the room with them, this was yet another incremental step in desensitizing Miss Grant to his fantasy and eventual demands that she perform sexual acts for and or have sexual contact with others within WWE. So I guess this is where the trafficking part comes into it. And for those of you who are wondering, that does actually fall under sex trafficking. If you break someone down morally and then coerce them into going and sleeping with other people, you're essentially trafficking them.
Yeah, it's a spectrum as well. Like if you were to fly a girl over and be like, hey, let me fly you over to come and watch WWE, and then she comes and then you have sex with her, or someone else has sex with her, essentially that's classed as sex trafficking as well.
Is it? Yeah, if coercion comes into it and you trick them and you demoralize them and then you palm them off to people, then yeah, you are essentially trafficking them. During a David versus Goliath type wrestling match in 2019, Miss Grant shared with McMahon her thoughts on the event, the draw of rooting for the underdog, and ideas for future events. McMahon complimented her creative input. She believed she was being taken seriously. That is, until McMahon named the dildo after the smaller wrestler and attempted to sexualize the situation, diminishing her input. That Rey Mysterio thing you're talking about is probably real. By fall of 2019, McMahon frequently pressed for pornographic videos and more explicit content. When Miss Grant expressed apprehension with his requests, McMahon responded with assurances that she could trust him, or questioned why she didn't trust him. McMahon also took care to remind Miss Grant of his power and influence, such as by flaunting a meeting with the Saudi Crown Prince in October 2019. McMahon then tightens his grip on Miss Grant and discredits her doctor, replacing him with one of McMahon's choosing. In addition to her panic attacks, Miss Grant began experiencing increasingly severe physical and mental and emotional symptoms, including sleep disruption, dizziness, exhaustion, rashes, weight loss, hair loss, and migraines. In November 2019, Miss Grant informed McMahon that her doctor suggested that her symptoms stemmed from trauma and ongoing stress. McMahon mocked her emotional trauma, my ass. However, on November 20th, 2019, McMahon insisted that Miss Grant see a physician of his choosing. This physician is referred to herein as Celebrity Doctor, and the facility that Celebrity Doctor operated from is referred to herein as Alternative Clinic. McMahon and Celebrity Doctor assured Grant that her bills at the Alternative Clinic would be taken care of under McMahon's account. After the initial visit, it became apparent to Miss Grant that McMahon and Celebrity Doctor wanted Miss Grant to remain in the care of Celebrity Doctor's practice, and Miss Grant felt pressured to do so. Celebrity Doctor made comments about how Celebrity Doctor, they referring to McMahon and Alternative Clinic, had saved her life, and Celebrity Doctor often remarked how Miss Grant was unable to even make eye contact with Celebrity Doctor during their initial sessions, an obvious sign of trauma. McMahon is insane. If he did this, he literally hired a doctor to fuck with her even more. Miss Grant acknowledged having a relationship with McMahon during visits with Celebrity Doctor, who gave little reaction, save telling her there were many different paths to God and love. It's a weird thing for a doctor to say.
Don't bring God into it.
Celebrity Doctor lavished attention, treatments, and products on Miss Grant, all of which were paid for under McMahon's account. Miss Grant was never provided with any receipts. When Miss Grant inquired about certain treatments provided, Celebrity Doctor challenged her on whether she trusted Celebrity Doctor and postured that if she didn't trust Celebrity Doctor, then we should part ways right now. At the outset of her care with Celebrity Doctor, each session lasted up to 1 hour. Miss Grant would leave feeling exhausted from Celebrity Doctor's deep dives into her personal and work life as a coach, focused on behavioral science. In 2020, McMahon voices concern about rumors, then publicly exploits her and Miss Grant's desperate attempt to leave WWE. So on January 30th, 2020, WWE issued a press release announcing that the company's co-presidents George Barrios and Michelle Wilson were departing the company and would no longer serve on its board of directors. A significant drop in WWE stock price followed. I remember when that happened. The company announced that Frank Riddick III, a member of board of directors for more than 11 years, would be interim chief financial officer and report directly to McMahon. On February 3rd, 2020, McMahon sent a message to Miss Grant advising he had been informed by WWE corporate officer number 2 that there were a lot of rumors circulating about McMahon and Miss Grant. McMahon warned Miss Grant that rumors were not good for either of them. Then on February 10th, 2020, without any advance warning, Miss Grant was temporarily relocated to the XFL workforce. Miss Grant, having been desperate to escape the feeling of being trapped in her existence at the WWE, applied to remain within the XFL. On March 6, 2020, she openly vocalized her desire to remain with XFL to colleagues, even referring to her state of work at WWE as nothingness, and she sought permission to make her change official from WWE employee number 1 and corporate officer number 4 before informing McMahon. Days after doing this, during which time she finally told McMahon about her application to remain with the XFL, her request was denied. In the weeks that followed, despite McMahon's warnings about rumors and direction to Miss Grant to play dumb, he began showing explicit photos of Miss Grant to people both inside and outside the company. That's crazy. On March 22nd, 2020, McMahon sent a lengthy message to Miss Grant describing in detail the circumstances surrounding sharing explicit photographs of Miss Grant to a former WWE referee. McMahon described how the WWE referee left to masturbate and told Miss Grant she had made a perfect stranger very happy. Either he's making it up or there's some sickos working over there.
I reckon it's run by a whole bunch of sickos.
I wouldn't be surprised.
All the ones that are like behind the scenes as well, that like it doesn't have to be people like who are wrestlers in the public eye. Like it's probably a lot of people who are just, behind the scenes.
Do you know that Slim Jim cut their partnership off with them as well following these claims, which was a massive sponsorship for the WWE? They've been with them for a long time. I think that TKO is going to have to do something soon because other sponsors are not going to want to be connected to this. Miss Grant initially dismissed this as mere fantasy talk, believing that McMahon would not actually do such a reckless thing. But when she voiced apprehension about McMahon sharing naked photos of her with someone she did not know, McMahon's response was to comfort her, but to assure WWE referees' loyalty to him. This sharing of explicit photos terrified Miss Grant as it illustrated McMahon's sheer lack of self-control, and it further panicked her that these private and intimate photos, which included her face, were being shared with complete strangers. On March 30th, 2020, McMahon enthusiastically messaged Miss Grant that WWE referee had showed a friend a naked photo of Miss Grant, which marked the beginning of McMahon sharing Miss Grant's naked pictures with others who he encouraged to share with their friends. That's awful. On March 31st, 2020, Miss Grant expressed concern to McMahon that she had no intention of having sex with these strangers and requested McMahon make that message clear. As she felt threatened and distressed by the responses her pictures were getting, she made clear that she did not want any perception of her moving beyond the point of mere fantasy. Shortly after, McMahon surprised Miss Grant with news that he had protected her job from a furlough that WWE would imminently announce. The furlough affected a large number of employees, and McMahon emphasized that he personally made sure that she would not be one of them, reinforcing her dependency on him, particularly after a majority of the support staff in the legal department were furloughed. I remember when this happened, they laid off tons of wrestlers. People were waking up in the morning to find out about it on Twitter. Imagine being a wrestler for the company, you wake up in the morning and you just got this email or you see these tweets, you've been fired. But he had the means to protect her because he wants to get his dick wet. McMahon became the most important figure in Miss Grant's life as he meticulously asserted power and control over almost every aspect of it. Miss Grant's...
Can I just say something though? Like, it is just a case of like, why her when there is so many people out there or women out there, and I don't know, in some senses finding new meat is more exciting as well. Like, why is he so fixated on her of all these people? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know why a man of like his level of power is fixating on one woman. I don't get it. I'm not saying it hasn't happened either, but it is very strange that, I mean, look, if he's that into, well, I guess for him, because getting an actual prostitute just means she's doing her job. He actually wants to demoralize someone and break them down and turn them into his lapdog.
Yeah.
Miss Grant's fears intensified over the consequences that could result from McMahon's actions, particularly by sharing her naked pictures. She became paranoid, completely dependent, and worshipfully devoted to McMahon. He in turn pressed forward in exerting his power over Miss Grant as he saw fit. We got a spicy text message there. McMahon recruits other men and forces Miss Grant into sex trafficking. In May 2020, McMahon had recruited an individual whom he manipulatively referred to as his friend to engage in a threesome. With McMahon and Miss Grant, the friend turned out to be McMahon's physical therapist at Alternative Clinic and is referred to herein as physical therapist.
Was we not all in lockdown in May 2020?
Yeah. Lockdown doesn't apply to billionaires. We all know that. To induce Miss Grant's participation in the threesome, McMahon began referring to Miss Grant as his girlfriend and sent her a large bouquet of flowers. Bouquet? Okay. Nevertheless, on May 8th, 2020, Miss Grant expressed apprehension about participating in the threesome. In response, McMahon insisted that the plans were already made and suggested he would lose a friendship if she did not go through with it. What kind of bullshit is that? You're going to lose a friend because you fell through with a threesome.
But she's supposed to be his girlfriend as well.
Yeah, but come on, man. This is insane. On the day of the threesome on May 9th, 2020, Miss Grant showed up to the condo. Do you know what? Yeah, just before I go on, do you know what always baffles me is that, we're just sitting here doing our thing. On May 9th, 2020, I was probably sitting there waiting for Monday Night Raw to start. Little did I know, McMahon is backstage doing all sorts of madness with the physical therapist.
Do you know what I think? That there is a solicitor who has sat there and created this whole document, and this has been getting drafted up, and we've had no idea, and now we're only just seeing it.
Oh yeah, 100%. This has been going on for a while.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine what's going to come next. On May 9th, 2020, Miss Grant showed up to the condo, but reiterated that she did not want to go through with the act. She expressed fear of being thrown around like a ragdoll by McMahon and the physical therapist. After Miss Grant clearly stated she wanted to back out, McMahon responded by telling Miss Grant for the first time that he loved her, stunning her into silence.
Stunning her into silence.
I hope that silence is fear and not, oh my God, he loves me. Although
he loves me, and yet he wants me to have a threesome right now with his therapist or physiotherapist?
Yeah, the physical therapist.
Physical therapist.
When I like a girl, or if I'm with a girl, the idea of another man being with her makes me sick. And this guy's offering her up. I don't get it.
What in the Hollywood movie is this? It just doesn't sound real though, does it? Like, it's just, you know what I mean? It's like...
It does sound insane.
Yeah. He's called me his girlfriend. He's trying to force me to have a threesome. And then he turned around and said he loves me. And I was too stunned to speak. Like, what is this?
Can you see a guy doing that though?
Yes, I can.
It's the thing is, it's so far fetched that to even come up with this is like, if she's lying, like, I don't know what to say. I mean, I don't think she's lying.
I don't think she is lying at all.
I don't think she's lying.
These kind of people get taken down when it's too late after they've abused too many women, and they're near their deathbed.
Yeah, I mean, if all the stories are fabrications, then obviously I wouldn't want anything to happen to anyone. It's just that it's very hard to believe that everything we've heard about Vince McMahon is a fabrication.
Yeah.
It doesn't add up. If they said this about CM Punk, for example, because there's never been anything come out about CM Punk. All the women that have interacted with him, as far as I've seen, have said that he's lovely. He's just a bit of a ladies' man. So if it came out now, I would exercise some skepticism and be like, well, every girl that's spoken about said that he's just a nice guy, and now all of a sudden this has come out. But with Vince McMahon, this has been going on for a long time. And it's not just this. There's a whole bunch of things. McMahon's manipulative tactic resulted in the outcome he wanted, and he led her down the stairs to the bedroom where physical therapist was already waiting to begin the threesome. Early in the encounter, McMahon immediately directed Miss Grant to lay down on her back in a supplicating position. While straddling over her, McMahon defecated on Miss Grant's head.
Is this the part?
This is where he starts shitting on her. So he put her down for missionary, climbed over her, squatted down, and took a shit on her head. So that shit probably got in her eyes and everything.
I'd vomit there and then on the spot.
Oh, I think I'd pass out or something.
I think I'd pick the shit up and throw it in his face. Fuck me. Are you visualizing
I've
it?
got shit in my eyes. McMahon left to shower off, but he instructed Miss Grant to remain in place with excrement in her hair and to continue performing for his friend. Now, the friend should have been like, hey, I came here for a threesome, bro. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
And then he continues to do what he's doing while she's got shit on her.
Thanks, mate. You've just ruined the moment. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Jesus Christ. This guy's just as fucked up.
Like, imagine you agree to have a threesome with one of your friends and then you just shit something out.
I'd be like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? I'll be out of there so quickly. McMahon and physical therapist actively continued with the threesome and directed Miss Grant's sexual performance for around an hour and a half while she was left covered in feces. Now, I saw people online saying, and I think that this is a load of bullshit that people are saying this, that because he's a 78-year-old man,
He couldn't make it to the toilet.
couldn't, man. I was just
What
like,
kind
come
of
on.
bullshit is
Come
that?
on. Have
Come
we
on
seen
now.
Vince McMahon? This guy is old as shit and he's still getting in the WWE ring. That guy's got more than enough energy. I don't believe that his bowels failed him. I've seen multiple YouTubers saying that. I just don't believe that. I believe he wanted to degrade her to the point that her spirit was broken. And what better way than to shit on somebody and then tell them to continue performing the sexual acts and them listen? I mean, once he's done it once, what's to say he can't do it again? Most people won't be able to muster up the courage against a normal person to fight back, let alone someone as powerful as Vince. Following the threesome on May 11th, 2020, McMahon sent an explicit message to Miss Grant that further detailed his fantasies of seeing her engaged in sexual relations. I feel gross reading this out, I can't lie.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, go on, you got a nicer voice than me.
I better not get clips.
Oh, you're going to get clipped 100%.
Okay.
Oh, you might want to.
Who's Janelle?
Janelle's the girl.
Oh, that's her.
Who are you?
It's because they keep saying Miss Grant. I love it. That's you, Janelle. You just can't get enough, can you? In the future, it's going to be so bad that you'll demand to be twice a day, not just in a freeway. Blank, it said blank. Why not let others see the beautiful, voluptuous body and watch you shake uncontrollably when you they'll go out of their minds. Then I'll find more friends and we'll tie you up so you're helpless. I'll direct them to have their way any way they want. Who can make you scream the loudest? Maybe I'll just line them up and have them squirt in your mouth, your pussy, and all over your tits and ass all at the same time. You'll be covered in and we'll make you eat it all and taste everybody's. The next morning you'll be a little sore, but you're still going to want more. After all that over and over. It cuts out there. It's just... Even the way it's being typed, though, like, is a 78-year-old man really going to type like that?
This is Vince McMahon we're talking about. He's not a regular 78-year-old man. I can definitely see him doing this. I'm not saying he did. This is alleged, but I can see this coming from him. Although him being 78 and typing like this is crazy.
Dirty. He is one dirty old man. That is vile.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, man. That's dehumanizing. I mean, look, there's people dirty talk, but not like this. This is dehumanizing. He's literally saying that you're going to take it.
Yeah, it is grape in text form.
Essentially.
And also, it's disgusting coming from a 7-year-old man. I don't know, call me ageist, whatever, but that is disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, look, if a 78-year-old man was talking to his 78-year-old wife and dirty texting and it wasn't...
That's still weird.
Yeah, I mean, you're with your wife. It's in the privacy of your home. Yeah, you're 78. You still got the hots for her. It's fine. You send her a dirty message at work. But if you're a 78-year-old man and you're texting somebody like this in a very grapey way, it's insane. I mean, it's insane at any age.
But he's talking like he thinks she likes that. Because he ended it with you're still going to want more.
I think he's trying to instruct her that this is what you're going to do. Like, I'm going to break you and you're going to want more. I think that's what he's trying to get at. McMahon then pressured Miss Grant into several additional threesomes, in a large part because she felt she had no other choice, particularly after McMahon's comments that he had personally ensured she had not lost her job. Her subsequent run-ins with physical therapists at Alternative Clinic also served as a reminder of how much was at stake if she did not obey. McMahon controlled Miss Grant's employment income, paid for her medical care, circulated naked pictures of her, and ignored her lack of consent for the threesome. So this is the part where I'm like, she's lost complete control. He's taken over her life completely. He's got all sorts of depraved pictures of her. I can only imagine the kinds of shit he's got of her, because they're saying they're pictures and videos, but we don't know what's in those pictures and videos. They could be really, really bad to the point where she's like, this can't get out. I won't be able to live this down. So I think at the beginning there was a chance to walk away. Now she is well in there, like she's in his clutches. Also, what you were saying earlier about getting employment, if she is really down bad, let's say that she's in Stamford, because I think that's where Titan Towers is. Someone as powerful as Vince McMahon, I'm willing to bet now, if she walked away from him, he would be able to pull enough strings
Stop her, from getting more work.
Yeah, to ruin her life.
Do you really think he'd care that much?
Yeah, I think someone like this with this amount of money and this amount of power.
For one particular person, though.
It's the idea that somebody would reject him because he's seen as God in the WWE. I think people like this, I think they would go to those lengths to try and ruin someone's life. And it's not like wrestlers haven't said that he's not done this before. Like, not these grapey things, but going out of his way to suppress their income. Ryback was literally talking about on his YouTube channel the other day that he tried to ruin his life when he didn't want to comply with some of the shady things he saw. Indeed, when the text conversations would begin to cross over from McMahon's fantasies into reality, Miss Grant often attempted to avoid physical encounters with physical... Oh boy, more text messages. Therapist, as on September 23rd, 2020, when she told McMahon there was no room for a third body. After the threesomes began, McMahon became more sadistic and his fantasies focused on control, such as choking, sensory deprivation, pain, humiliation, and group scenarios in which Miss Grant was to be physically overwhelmed and subservient.
Ari, your last picture, you need your panties ripped off and...
There's no way a 78-year-old man typed this out.
I think you should just put the screenshot on the screen. I am not reading that out.
Just abbreviate it.
You can't.
He's basically, what she doesn't want to read is he's basically said 3 BBCs. If you don't know what that is, go look it up on Google.
In all 3 holes at the same time.
Insane.
I'm not reading this. This is literally just dirty talk. I'm sorry. If you want to read it, you can, but I'm not reading that. My mum watches this channel.
Let me attempt. You need your panties ripped off and 3 BBCs in all 3 holes at the same time. Weigh up your P word and weigh up your ass as far as they will go, but even further. Dude, what the fuck? Are you trying to get her ripped inside out? And the thickest BBC goes down your throat, so it makes you gag and convulse as those BBCs pound away. It feels like from the start you're being assaulted, but it's made you... I'm going to use more politically correct language here. Orgasm non-stop. Just one continuous, constant orgasm, and just before you pass out, those BBCs squirt their load of juices inside you. As you lay on your stomach, the juice is coming out of all of your holes. I'll turn you over and jack off all over you.
Books. You know them books that's like... I can't remember what the word is, but they're like exotic books and they're very explicit like that.
This is disgusting, though. Why would you want 3 other...
No, but I read one book. It's called Sugar Daddies. And it was kind of like that.
Was it entertaining?
Yeah. It was entertaining.
But
that's not real life. That's make-believe.
Yeah.
This is sad that he is really sending this to a girl. And I can imagine if she feels trapped, like she can't get out of this. And that's what he's going to force her to do. Like, I'd actually rather go back to being bankrupt and everything else than having to go through that experience.
He literally wants to leave her on the floor, convulsing with a bunch of dudes just leaking out of her.
Yeah, the disrespect.
Well, the next line is gross. So prepare your ears. On one occasion, he instructed Miss Grant, do not knock on the door, because if I see you, I will grape you in the hallway.
So please tell me why she felt as though she couldn't just go to the police instantly with these messages.
I have no idea. I have no idea. I mean... she did get paid hush money about a year ago, and this only happened about 3 years ago. So it hasn't been that long.
Because she's taken money, she can't speak up, and now she has to go through this because she's been given money.
Yeah, she fucked up. You got in bed with the devil, unfortunately.
Yeah.
To leave no doubt regarding the dynamic of their relationship, on May 12th, 2020, McMahon texted Miss Grant, "I'm the only one who owns you and controls you, and I want to F you." A theme that was often reiterated throughout their involvement. On June 17th, 2020, Miss Grant sent texts to McMahon noting her 1-year anniversary in joining WWE. McMahon ignored her.
Why did she send that?
Yeah, honestly, like what? There's some that I'm not on McMahon's side by any stretch of the imagination. This guy is insane. This is really, really sick in the head. If he did do these things, then he should be locked up. But I don't know why she's engaging with him. Like, any time you get away from this guy, you should relish it. Why are you texting her about your 1-year anniversary? A month later, McMahon reminded Miss Grant about the far-reaching results of his texting out explicit content of her. By now, thousands of men see you every day all over the world. They all want to F you. Around this time, McMahon openly shared explicit photographs and salacious stories about Miss Grant with WWE crew at TV tapings, a group McMahon also referred to as his fan club or as her fan club. Indeed, McMahon exuberantly messaged her a truthful story of having just shared explicit content of her with a group of 12 men on the WWE tech crew and recounted the obscene details he shared with them. "I just passed my phone around to a bunch of guys on the tech crew. They were screaming, 'Oh my God, she's effing beautiful. Look at that ass. I'd like to get that.' I paused to count out loud how many guys there were. 12. I then said, 'Okay, there's 12 of you, and she would love to F each and every one of you at one time.' The guys cheered, but she will only do it if she takes 3 at the time. That brought a huge reaction. She wants 1 deep in her ass, 1 way down her throat, and 1 in her vagina, and you can pound her and keep on pounding her till you pop your load. She may scream and try to say no, although it would be difficult to say anything with bless you. It would be difficult to say anything with a thingy down your throat." They laughed. I then said, listen, no matter what, just pound away till you squirt. This is insane. Baby, these guys were having a blast with me. Some of them didn't believe me, so I said, you were the greatest F in the world, and no matter how much you get, you always wanted more. And then I said, she loves... this is sickening. She loves CUM, baby. These techs, as we call them, we're having the time of their lives. Listen to my truthful story. I then said you would take a 10-minute break between each effing, but then you would get back on your hands and knees with your ass in the air and say, okay, I'm ready. Who's next? I drove them wild, or I should say you drove them wild. Just imagine if this really happened, how much CUM you would have coming out of all of your holes. 78 years old, and this is what you're doing with your time. Absolutely unreal.
This is very degrading. That's the word I was looking for. This is so degrading. How are you just offering her out to 12 guys like that and saying that she has to take 3 at once? And you're literally just there with a bunch of guys just talking about one woman like this. It's just so sick in the head. It's so sick in the head. There's nothing else I can use to explain it except it is just very sick in the head.
Yep. On the occasions when Miss Grant informed McMahon that she was physically injured during their sexual encounter, McMahon's responses varied from apologies to non-accountable pushback and blaming impulse control. When encounters were particularly brutal, Miss Grant learned to bookend the truth of her injuries with compliments to create the least amount of pushback from McMahon. However, Miss Grant sustained brutal and painful injuries, including bleeding, swelling, bruising, and spans of incontinence resulting from McMahon's forceful use of his fists, adult toys, and objects unsafe for vaginal insertion or penetration. For instance, on August 28, 2020, Miss Grant texted Mr. McMahon that she was injured during their latest sexual encounter. As a result, McMahon's insistence on penetrating Miss Grant with extra large toys, sex toys, including a vibrating wand that caused her to panic, McMahon ignored Miss Grant's warning that the device was not meant for insertion and forcefully shoved the one inside her so deeply that it became stuck for a period. Oh my lord. She texted she was in pain and bleeding a lot between last night and today, and I'm on the floor right now because I can't get comfortable. And on August 29th, 2020, she texted him an update that she was still really uncomfortable, and I got her in some way that I'm having trouble describing. McMahon did apologize, saying that sometimes I just get carried away. McMahon recruits Laurinaitis into his exploitation of Miss Grant and transfers her into Laurinaitis' department at WWE, trafficking and sex acts at WWE headquarters. During this time, Miss Grant became so sick from the stress of the situations that McMahon had subjected her to that her weight plummeted to just over 100 pounds, which McMahon ignored. One distressing event occurred on November 21st, 2020, when McMahon drove Miss Grant to WWE headquarters to fulfill his fantasy of having a sexual encounter with her in his office, causing Miss Grant to suffer a panic attack and in the passenger seat while pleading with McMahon to change his mind and drive her back home. McMahon scoffed and then gave her an ultimatum: either have a sexual encounter in his office or inside the parked car. Terrified, Miss Grant obeyed McMahon's directions and entered the WWE headquarters for the encounter. Further, despite Miss Grant's repeated statements that she did not consent to threesomes with McMahon and physical therapist, McMahon advertised her to others and told her that he had found another person to join them, defendant John Laurinaitis. For those of you that don't know who John Laurinaitis is, on TV, he was known as Johnny Ace. He was a wrestler like back in the 80s, I think, and then he transitioned into management roles, and he was the general manager of Monday Night Raw. He was the one with the croaky voice that everyone hated. In November 2020, McMahon pressed Miss Grant to make explicit photos and videos to send to Laurinaitis. McMahon orchestrated exchanges by instructing Miss Grant when to create explicit content for Laurinaitis, including what to say, and provided her with notes to adjust her performance. McMahon then facilitated the exchange of explicit content back and forth between Miss Grant and Laurinaitis. Notably, even once phone numbers were exchanged between Miss Grant and Laurinaitis, McMahon insisted that he be privy to any messages that Miss Grant sent to Laurinaitis and demanded that she report back about all interactions, further illustrating the level of control he held over Miss Grant. On or about December 29th, 2020, a threesome was arranged between McMahon, Laurinaitis, and Miss Grant at McMahon's condo. McMahon instructed her to tell Laurinaitis that she was a neighbor and girlfriend working in the legal field, but not at WWE. Shortly after meeting Laurinaitis, Miss Grant asked him if she was the first woman who McMahon had introduced him into such a meeting. Laurinaitis failed to respond and shot a look directly at McMahon, who quickly intervened by kissing Miss Grant and initiating the sexual encounter amongst the three of them. Once again, Miss Grant asked for protection. Once again, her request was denied after an assurance that Laurinaitis was clean. Oh god, they both went in raw. Insane. Laurinaitis is an old man as well. He's hideous looking too. In the days that followed, McMahon texted her that Laurinaitis hugged me like a bear and said thank you to me about 12 times already. In contrast, Laurinaitis messaged Miss Grant, thanks for the fun afternoon.
This is just very traumatic.
Very traumatic. Oh boy, here we go. On or around January 25th, 2021, Miss Grant was reassigned to directly support WWE's new hire, a higher-ranking employee in the legal department. On February 5th, 2021, McMahon sent Miss Grant to establish a schedule for when other men, including physical therapists and Laurinaitis, could have sex with Miss Grant, which Miss Grant attempted to rebuff. Thank you.
I'll put you out of your misery.
It's too much.
Okay. Fucking hell. It is just difficult when you look at it, innit?
And knowing that it came from a 78-year-old man.
Exactly, baby. He's not the only one. Blank called me this afternoon begging to eat you and f*** you with his nice and hard. He's put it in brackets. And then she said, give me another week, baby, and I'll be ready. I'm feeling more like myself. It's not great, but it's getting better. Tell him soon.
She's trying to push it away.
Yeah, but she's still the engaging of like, agreeing to it. Do you know what I mean? But I suppose she feels trapped. What could she do? I already told him, baby. By the way, Johnny wants Tuesdays, but not this coming one, and the occasional Saturday. But maybe I can shift it to Thursday nights. In brackets, Johnny would like all of the above.
Jesus.
So literally each day out, he's just whoring her out.
Yeah.
So she's basically a prostitute at this point.
Oh, she was a prostitute in the beginning. She's just a mega prostitute now.
Is she still working in the office as well?
I believe so. Texts like this, a shift schedule, caused Miss Grant to suffer breakdowns over how her original hope for a new life had been reduced to an objectified and dehumanized existence with no way out. On or about March 6, 2021, a second threesome between McMahon, Laurinaitis, and Miss Grant occurred. In March 2021, WWE had still not hired a replacement after WWE Corporate Officer number 4's termination in November 2020. On March 9th, 2021, McMahon informed Miss Grant, still an entry-level coordinator, that top executives in the company knew about their relationship and that her presence in the legal department was effectively delaying the company's efforts to hire a new replacement for this high-ranking official, reinforcing the fact that many within the company were well aware of the circumstances detailed herein. As a result, McMahon stated that the plan was for her to change departments, and he verbally directed Miss Grant to transfer to the Talent Relations Department, reporting to Laurinaitis. On March 10th, 2021, Miss Grant sent McMahon a text message recapping their conversation and expressing shock and a range of concerns, including about Laurinaitis. Especially, Miss Grant expressed a desire to be treated humanely and taken seriously, which she acknowledged could be an uphill battle. Unfortunately, Miss Grant's transfer to the Talent Relations Department came with the expectation from both McMahon and Laurinaitis that she engaged with Laurinaitis sexually, both physically and with explicit content. On March 10th, 2021, WWE Corporate Officer number 2 informed Grant that day that she would officially be moved to Talent Relations and would quickly begin to report into Laurinaitis. Although details about her role, including her title and salary, were still being firmed up, in essence, Miss Grant again found herself in a completely undefined role, except for the understanding that she remained a sexual slave to be used and trafficked by McMahon within the WWE. I highly doubt that she was the only girl that was going through this at the time. I reckon they had a rota.
Do you reckon?
There's no way they've zeroed in on one woman. There's no way this is the first time. I guarantee you there's a number of women this has been happening to, and she's just a spoke on the wheel.
Yeah.
There's no way that all these he's gotten all these men to just zero in on her. There must be more. This behavior that they're exhibiting seems like they've done it before. This isn't their first rodeo.
Yeah.
On March 12th, 2021, McMahon reminded her of the connection between her job and her role as a sexual object. Let's work hard and play hard too. On March 16th, 2021, Miss Grant was directed to pick up a key to Laurinaitis' hotel room and serve herself to him as breakfast before the start of work. McMahon look, the way they're doing it is very dehumanizing. Serve yourself up as breakfast. That is... To someone that's been trafficked, that's awful.
Yeah.
You can probably say that in a sexy way to a girl that you're seeing. Like, I'm not going to repeat it on YouTube, but you can probably say that in a way that a girl would like, but not when you're trafficking a girl. That's insane. Yeah. McMahon constantly reinforced the expectation that Miss Grant sexually performed for him and her new boss, Laurinaitis, both in and out of the office. McMahon wrote on March 22nd, another one for you, 2021, do you promise to make me proud, baby? Will you show him what a porno star you are and can be? Will you show off for me like never before? And on days when he's in town, I want you to F him every morning and later in the office too. McMahon also indicated on April 2nd, 2021 that Miss Grant should obey if Laurinaitis wants to bring in yet more men.
It's just weird that they all want to share the same woman as well. Like these men have the money for actual like prostitutes. They can probably go out and get a lot of women because of who they are.
Yeah.
And the fact that they all want to share one woman is bizarre to me.
I don't think they're interested in going out and buying prostitutes. I think they're interested in dehumanizing people, like getting a hold of someone and crushing them, and then getting a new project and crushing them.
And maybe it's because they've got her right where they want her that it's just... I don't know. This is they probably all want to do the same women so they can talk about it after. Oh yeah, that was insane. Like, oh, they all know what it feels like. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Maybe he wants 2 other guys to join you with him. Holy shit, you've told him you would do anything with him. So if he surprised you with 2 others, you would have no alternative than to take them on. Oh my God, the stories you could tell me then. It makes me want to ejaculate right now. By the way, I just thought of what I think is an excellent idea. Maybe you can hint that if he knows someone who can be discreet, it might be better if you and Johnny try him out first so he can get more comfortable before he is introduced to me. Actually, that makes total sense, doesn't it?
I don't know what the hell he's going on about. Why? What's his fascination of introducing more men? I would have thought he would want more women in these sexual encounters, but he just seems interested in watching his girl get railed by everyone.
His girl.
He's a cuck. He's an insane cuck. In April 2021, WWE Senior Vice President of Human Resources was fired. The same month, McMahon informed Miss Grant that she would be given the title of Vice President of Operations within the Talent Relations Department. However, days later, McMahon backtracked and said she would be a Director of Operations instead to avoid suspicion of a sudden promotion to Vice President. During this conversation, McMahon told Miss Grant that he had expressed to other WWE management that he wanted her to reach the level of Vice President and spend a year or 2 in the position, as she would be able to take the experience anywhere. Miss Grant left this conversation with McMahon hoping she could escape this situation with her finances and reputation intact. She just needed to survive until that point.
Bloody hell.
Wishful thinking. In an April 2021 meeting between Miss Grant and WWE Corporate Officer Number 2, WWE Corporate Officer Number 2 acknowledged that that the jump initially proposed to Vice President was too big and could put a target on Miss Grant's back. Nevertheless, WWE Corporate Officer Number 2 presented Miss Grant with paperwork detailing a base salary increase to $200,000 as Director of Operations. As soon as Miss Grant began working directly for Laurinaitis, forcible touching and overtly sexual behaviors became part of daily life when he was in the office. On numerous occasions, Miss Grant was directed to visit Laurinaitis at his hotel room before work to serve herself to him as breakfast. These devastating experiences made Miss Grant feel as though she were being pimped out as an object for sexual gratification for her new boss.
No shit, Sherlock.
Yeah, for real. Upon information and belief, corporate funds from the WWE were used to finance Laurinaitis' hotel stays when these coerced sexual encounters occurred. Per McMahon's instructions, Miss Grant reported interactions with Laurinaitis back to McMahon, for whom the story served as a source of arousal. Yeah, he's definitely a cuck. He has to be a cuck.
What's a cuck?
He likes watching other men have sex with his girlfriend and hearing about it.
Oh.
You know those guys that sit in the corner of the couch and they watch their girl get railed? Yeah. I'll never understand that. The arrangement with Laurinaitis left Miss Grant miserable and enraged. However, in her years of experience with McMahon, she knew her request to stop would be ignored at best or used to destroy her career and reputation at worst. Miss Grant was further left feeling isolated by colleagues and surveilled by the top-level employees within WWE. Professionally and personally, Miss Grant's fate was entirely in the hands of McMahon, Laurinaitis, and the other WWE executives who enabled her abuse. On May 24, 2021, McMahon messaged Miss Grant to remind her that a mistake could destroy her career and that she should pursue verbal communication rather than written where possible. This is really some of the worst stuff I've read. Oh, got a saucy one for you. Do your best Bond girl voice.
Well, this is him. Those compliments will keep on coming, baby. Just wait and see. I totally understand and agree Ari being scared of communication and photos. Johnny gets drunk and sloppy and could easily make a mistake that could cost him his job and yours too. Verbal communication is the way to go. That said, have you and Johnny talked about breakfast tomorrow? ? We haven't discussed it at all. It's up in the air. Johnny complained about getting a new phone and it just arrived. I haven't set up time to coordinate setting it up with it because I need him to assure me that he's erased everything he's ever saved. Truly, I regret that he ever got pics. It's not worth the stressing I'm feeling. I'm done with it.
Panic that someone else's mistake could cost Miss Grant her livelihood left her feeling helpless and afraid of what would happen if McMahon's mood shifted. leading her to message him expressions of loyalty, love, and submission as a coping mechanism, and with the hope that he would protect her. On June 14th, 2021, Miss Grant again told McMahon that she did not want to engage in sexual encounters with Laurinaitis, adding, "I've left that hotel feeling bad about myself every time." McMahon responded that the one-on-one encounters could cease, but that he expected threesomes with Laurinaitis to continue. The fuck, dude, no? Seriously. McMahon and Laurinaitis confined Miss Grant in an office for an abusive sexual assault at WWE headquarters. The following morning on June 15th, 2021 at approximately 7:51 a.m., Miss Grant messaged McMahon that due to her work on an important project, she did not want a threesome that week, as a threesome won't set me up for success, it will knock me out. To avoid pushback from McMahon, Miss Grant offered the following week instead. McMahon and Laurinaitis ignored her plea and brought her into Laurinaitis' office. Right, even a pushback of a week, this guy's like, fuck that, doing it my way. Forcibly touching and undressing her before forcing her to engage in a threesome on a conference table. Miss Grant pleaded, no, and please stop. McMahon responded with, no means yes. Miss Grant again told them to stop. Instead, McMahon licked his fingers and penetrated Miss Grant and said, take it, bitch. I didn't feel good reading that. This guy's an animal, man. With each taking turns restraining her for the other, Laurinaitis then joined forcibly by shoving his tongue, then penis, into Miss Grant's mouth. On June 23rd, 2021, around 11:42, McMahon directed Miss Grant in the middle of a workday to meet him on a lower floor. When Miss Grant arrived, McMahon led her inside his private locker room, locked the door, and forced himself on her over a massage table. Later that day, $15,000 in gift cards to Bloomingdale's were purchased at McMahon's direction and delivered by McMahon's personal assistant to Miss Grant in her office. On multiple other occasions while Miss Grant worked under Laurinaitis, including after McMahon's promise that one-on-one encounters would end, and even after his wife moved across the country to join Laurinaitis. Laurinaitis is married to the Bella twins' mum.
Okay.
I don't know if you know who the Bella twins are.
Yeah, I do. One of them's with John Cena, no?
She used to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're not together no more.
No, not for years, but yeah, one of them used to be, Nikki Bella used to be his girl. John Laurinaitis is married to their mother. On multiple other occasions while Miss Grant worked under Laurinaitis, including after McMahon's promise that one-on-one encounters would end, and even after his wife moved across the country to join Laurinaitis, he would call Miss Grant to his office, lock the door, unzip his pants, and instruct Miss Grant to perform oral sex. Through all this, Miss Grant noticed that the less she sexually engaged with Laurinaitis, the less work she had, as Laurinaitis began to belittle Miss Grant in front of colleagues. Fearing for herself and her future, Miss Grant asked Laurinaitis whether he still supported her promotion to vice president. He deflected with an answer about considering all options and changed the topic. The extreme uncertainty and fear for her future exasperated Miss Grant's physical symptoms of illness, including gastrointestinal issues and vomiting, which continued to worsen over the remainder of her time with WWE. McMahon uses Miss Grant as a sexual pawn to entice world-famous wrestling talent and to keep WWE superstar under contract with WWE. Now, I think this is where Brock Lesnar is apparently implemented in this. WWE superstar is famous worldwide as a top talent with WWE, with a large collective fan base that helps generate viewership and drives in-person attendance, all of which enrich WWE and McMahon. Upon information and belief, McMahon began to recruit WWE superstar for a sexual encounter with Miss Grant while she was still a coordinator in the legal department. By July of 2021, McMahon informed Miss Grant that WWE superstar would be their next playmate. As in other instances, McMahon described his fantasy of seeing Miss Grant engaged in unmerciful sexual acts with WWE superstar, during which he would rip her open. McMahon also confided to Miss Grant that he wanted to have WWE superstar under a new contract, while WWE superstar indicated an interest in a return to other professional endeavors. Do you know what? After reading all this, I wouldn't. He's the kind of guy, if this is all to be believed, that would be involved in that shit that you see in the Hostel films.
Yeah.
I honestly believe if this is all true and she's telling the truth and he did these things, I would not put anything past him. Like, his sexual desires are actually quite creepy. They're clearly leading down a road of no return, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
On or about July 21st, 2021, McMahon directed Miss Grant to create personalized sexual content for this WWE superstar. McMahon shared the photos of WWE superstar and then informed Miss Grant that he likes what he sees. On July 21st, 2021, McMahon flew and or caused WWE superstar to fly on a jet into a local airport and travel into Connecticut across state lines for what McMahon described to Miss Grant as a business dinner, as well as a sexual encounter with Miss Grant in McMahon's condo. Upon information and belief, the dinner was to discuss WWE superstar's continued involvement with WWE prior to the business dinner with McMahon. WWE superstar made a brief visit to Miss Grant's building. However, WWE superstar did not return to the building for a sexual encounter because he was too intoxicated and taken back to the plane. Later that evening, after McMahon recounted the story about his dinner with WWE superstar to Miss Grant, he sought to salvage the night with a request that they roleplay as a sexual encounter in which McMahon acted as if he were the WWE superstar. So if this guy is Brock Lesnar they're talking about, McMahon was pretending to be Brock Lesnar before they had sex. Do you know how weird that is? Have you seen Brock Lesnar come to the ring? Skips in place and starts
That's
yelling.
what I'm saying. It's all weird. Maybe he's got an obsession with all the wrestlers, and he just. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. It sounds like there is no limits to what this guy will do. McMahon was so physically rough with Miss Grant during this encounter that Miss Grant begged McMahon to stop numerous times, including loud cries of "Help! I'm serious and I'm scared," as he, among other things, penetrated her, fisted her, pulled her hair, pinned her down, shoved her, and open palm slapped her. McMahon's assault caused Miss Grant to break down, weeping and curl into the fetal position with her arms pulled up to protect her face. McMahon alternated between slaps and shoves before admitting that I'm really effing up with you right now and left tonight, huh? McMahon forbade Miss Grant from leaving his condo that night unless she could verbally assure him that there wasn't a problem and everything between them was okay. Notably, however, he made no effort to check on her well-being after she left his condo. On August 26, 2021, WWE held its second biggest annual event, SummerSlam, in Las Vegas Allegiant Stadium. Around this time, McMahon and WWE superstar privately reached an informal agreement about his return. That night, McMahon texted Miss Grant a reminder that she was an enslaved object to him. "I want to drive you lower and lower, so low that you might beg me to sell you."
What?
God damn, Jesus Christ. McMahon continued to advertise a sexual encounter with Miss Grant to the top WWE superstar during the formal negotiation of a new booking contract with WWE.
Here's what Blank said after I told him that part of the deal was you. LOL, that's your turf. She will be ruined after me and leave your ass. Plus, after me, your tool won't fit anymore.
Wow. In December 2021, McMahon gave Miss Grant's personal cell phone number to the WWE superstar and promised she'll do anything requested of her. In the days that followed, WWE superstar revealed a fetish to Miss Grant and tested McMahon's promise that Miss Grant would do anything with a request that she send a video of herself urinating. Okay. Unable to recognize herself, Miss Grant went numb and obeyed. WWE superstar informed Miss Grant if she had not complied with the request, WWE superstar would have lost any interest in her and then called her a bitch. I mean,
it's got to get to a point where you look and think, what is life? Like, this is not my life, and you do something about it.
Yeah, this is a bit much. Like, I can't even. This has been going on, what now? We're in 2021 reading this. Going into 2022. She's been dealing with this for almost 3 years.
Yeah.
That same month, WWE superstar expressed to Miss Grant his desire to set a play date and have a sexual encounter. However, a snowstorm changed WWE superstar's travel plans, and Miss Grant ultimately used the weather and COVID-19 as an excuse to back out. McMahon tells Miss Grant that his wife has learned about her and pressures Miss Grant for an NDA. In early January 2022, McMahon abruptly distanced himself from Miss Grant, saying that he could not speak to her or be in the same room as her. On January 9th, 2022, McMahon agreed to speak with Miss Grant at his condo. During this meeting, McMahon told Miss Grant that his wife, Linda McMahon, had learned about his relationship with Miss Grant, that he was losing his condo, and that she would divorce him. He added, too, that a public divorce would make Miss Grant a headline.
So it makes me think, like, was he not at all in any way disrespecting his actual wife? Do you know what I mean? Behind closed doors, and the fact that his wife is powerful enough to say, I found out about you cheating on me, now you're going to lose this stuff and you'd stop talking to her. And he's kind of like panicking like, shit, what do I do? Do you know what I mean?
She's got a stake in the WWE, quite a big one at the time. I don't know if she still does, but she does have the power to cause problems.
Right.
And just for public perception, you know, the McMahon family have always been a unit in the WWE and in wrestling. So purportedly to salvage his marriage and avoid both the negative publicity and other repercussions of a divorce, McMahon wanted to ensure that Miss Grant would remain silent about his personal misconduct in order to preserve his controlling interest in the WWE. McMahon told Miss Grant that if she left WWE and signed an NDA, he was confident Linda McMahon would not divorce him. He could remain in the condo and Miss Grant would avoid reputational harm. That sounds like BS. Linda's going to divorce him anyway. He's just doing it to save himself. McMahon instructed Miss Grant that she should not go back to the office and immediately lessen her involvement on open work items. Miss Grant expressed concerns about both her name being mentioned in the media and the loss over her image, especially as McMahon had shared content of her for close to 2 years and the ramifications for her career. McMahon suggested that he would attempt to help keep Miss Grant's reputation intact and that he or WWE Corporate Officer Number 1 would personally help Miss Grant to find another job. McMahon also instructed Miss Grant not to share this news with anyone and suggested she offer health-related excuses if asked about leaving WWE. Regarding the NDA, Miss Grant asked McMahon, is this when Jerry sends the papers? McMahon nodded and assured Miss Grant that they would be in the driver's seat to iron out terms, but she would need an attorney to make things official and approved of Miss Grant's asking celebrity doctor for an attorney referral. Following this discussion, McMahon led Miss Grant to his bedroom for another sexual encounter. God, he's still going. Doesn't end. On January 14th, 2022, McMahon sent Miss Grant a to-do list for purposes of effectuating the NDA, such as retaining counsel, and also included an offer for one-on-one career coaching. McMahon suggested the list had been drafted by WWE Corporate Officer Number 2. Before Miss Grant retained counsel, McMahon discussed the amount of money that would be exchanged for the NDA and settled on a lump sum of $3 million. After Miss Grant told McMahon his initial offer of $1 million was not enough to compensate for the lost earning potential and the fact that she would be unable to continue the promised career trajectory of vice president, as well as failing to last as a director for a full year. Before Miss Grant retained counsel, McMahon called Miss Grant with an update and informed her that McMahon's attorney and counsel for WWE insisted on installment payments due to cash flow purposes. When Miss Grant responded that this reasoning did not make sense for a billionaire, McMahon insisted that it was not his idea. On or about January 19, 2022, Miss Grant advised McMahon that she had contacted celebrity doctor about an attorney referral, and on that physician's recommendations and upon McMahon approval, she signed a retainer agreement with a lawyer later that day. On January 24, 2022, McMahon continued to engage in sexual text message exchanges with Miss Grant, including encouraging her to send an explicit photo to WWE superstar. McMahon also requested Miss Grant send him content that she had sent to the WWE superstar.
I wonder how the wife found out.
I mean, he doesn't seem very smart saying all this stuff online. The negotiations of the NDA were brief, lasting only 8 days. Miss Grant reminded McMahon that the NDA ought to address people who knew about their relationship, including but not limited to WWE Corporate Officer Number 1, Number 2, John Laurinaitis, and McMahon's personal assistants. Miss Grant and her attorney sought to incorporate the list of individuals who had knowledge of the relationship into a Schedule A in the NDA. Miss Grant's requested revisions were flatly rejected by McMahon and WWE, who reverted to their original draft rather than incorporate any of her proposed changes, with the exception that as of the date of execution, Miss Grant would not speak of the relationship. On or around January 26, 2022, McMahon articulated an even more pressing need to get the NDA signed immediately, informing Miss Grant that he was under a tight deadline to report pending or threatened legal action to the WWE Board of Directors, specifically the Audit Committee, and that McMahon and his attorney could not do so unless Miss Grant signed the NDA. He informed Miss Grant that board members were concerned about the delay. Furthermore, McMahon repeatedly pressed Miss Grant to stop her attorney from any further wordsmithing and blamed Miss Grant's attorney for not understanding the urgency of the situation. Also, despite any previous approval, McMahon now expressed that both he and his attorney had concerns about Miss Grant's attorney and warned her that her counsel could not be trusted, which in turn caused Miss Grant to question her trust in her personal attorney. See what he's doing? He's such a control freak that anyone that is outside of his reach, he will manipulate into thinking it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
On or around January 26, 2022, Miss Grant became so overwhelmed that she asked to simply give notice without the need for a payment, even offering to sign a napkin or post it as a sign of goodwill. McMahon flatly rejected her desire to back out. So she just sounds done now. She doesn't even want the money. On January 27, 2022, just 8 days after Miss Grant had hired an attorney, McMahon left Miss Grant a lengthy audio message explaining why they needed to go through with the NDA, pushing her to hurry up and sign the NDA and advising that he would be double fucked if she did not, presumably referring to both his divorce and report to the board of directors. On January 27, 2022 and January 28, 2022, there were unresolved edits that led to panicked phone calls, including an attorney confidentiality clause and signatory line that Miss Grant's counsel said he would never sign. Also, the deadline to sign the NDA was pushed up from January 31st to January 28th. McMahon continued pressuring Miss Grant with his calls, during which he pleaded, demanded, threatened, and begged her to sign the NDA and reminded her that by not signing, she would jeopardize him, the company, and his family, and that she would surely become the subject of national headlines and ruin her reputation if she did not sign the NDA by the start of WWE's live programming schedule on the 28th of January. He reassured her that nothing would change between them and she would emerge with her reputation intact if she would simply sign the NDA. In a state of mental defeat and fear from McMahon's threats, Miss Grant succumbed to his relenting pressure and signed the NDA just before the deadline on January 28th. I don't know about all that. Why did she sign it? She had him by the balls. She should have been able to tell by all the panicking.
Yeah. This is it. This is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, you kind of messed up there. I mean,
like, just knowing that, yeah, he's so desperate, you have this power, and surely you could make more money out of it or get your revenge from it, from everything he put you through. What I keep clinging on to is the fact that they're saying if she walks away, basically her career is on the line, but she literally decided to put herself through this whole thing all just for her career.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Although, like we said, McMahon is an absolute scumbag, if this is to be believed, we also have to put a little bit of accountability on her shoulders as well. I think when she was really in it, it might have been too late because he might have had some serious doubt on her. But at the point of him inviting her over to the condo and like taking it from a business arrangement to trying to get on her, that's when she should have been like, okay, I see where this is going.
Yeah.
On February 4th, 2022, Miss Grant was wired $1 million as the first installment of the NDA. On February 28th, 2022, Miss Grant was wired $10,000 to cover attorney fees and incurred in connection with the NDA. Both wires were sent with originator described as Vincent K. McMahon. On February 9th and 10th, 2022, Miss Grant gave notice to Laurinaitis and put human resources at WWE on official notice that she was leaving the WWE. After signing the NDA, Miss Grant continued to ask about who had told Linda McMahon, as she was concerned about her ability to obtain employment in the future. McMahon responded that it did not matter and that he was tired of her questions. After the NDA was signed, McMahon, wearing only a white robe, met Miss Grant in his condo to review outstanding business items. As Miss Grant was proceeding to the door to leave, McMahon grabbed her arm before she exited and commanded her to do one last thing and get on your knees. This guy is the devil.
Just don't know how he keeps getting her.
Well, she keeps going back to his condo. As Miss Grant knelt on the hard floor, barely a few feet away from the front door, McMahon opened his robe and ordered her to eat him. McMahon grabbed the back of Miss Grant's head and slammed her face into his crotch multiple times until she gagged and pushed him away, telling him to stop and that she couldn't breathe. McMahon responded that she wouldn't get away that easily and held her head as he forced himself back in her mouth until she had no air. Miss Grant tried to push him away, but he held her head firmly in place and loudly commanded her to look up, followed by "Take it, bitch." They momentarily made eye contact before McMahon's force caused Miss Grant's body to convulse and retch with tears streaming down her face. McMahon then released his hold and closed his robe as she stood back up. After leaving, Miss Grant never saw McMahon again. He wasn't even doing that to get off. He was doing it to humiliate her and let her know he's in control.
Yeah.
What, like, that is just. I mean, it would be disgusting if he was horny in this situation, but he literally did it to dehumanize her.
Done that, but he still would have been turned on to do what he was doing.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
No, this is absolutely sickening. This is some of the worst shit I've ever read. On March 2nd, 2022, while Miss Grant was away on a trip to Florida, McMahon called Miss Grant to advise that it would probably be the last time she would hear from him, and if she needed anything, to contact WWE Corporate Officer number 1 or number 2 over the course of an approximately half-hour call. McMahon lamented about both his inability to focus on the upcoming WrestleMania and how his personal life had blown up over the past few weeks. Towards the end of their conversation, McMahon and Miss Grant agreed to resume contact after WrestleMania. He also instructed Miss Grant to continue having sexual relations with other men, including WWE Superstar in the meantime. He's still going. On or around March 4th, 2022, WWE Superstar messaged Miss Grant that he was in New York. In line with McMahon's orders, Miss Grant texted WWE Superstar explicit pictures. On March 20th, I don't get why she's still doing it at this point.
Well, she signed that NDA, so she's screwed. She can't do anything now.
On March 27th, 2022, WWE Superstar reached out to Miss Grant again. Miss Grant interpreted these back-to-back advances as an indication of McMahon's continued control. On March 30th, 2022, Miss Grant's counsel received a call from McMahon's attorney advising that there had been an anonymous email about the relationship between Miss Grant and McMahon and Laurinaitis. Later in June and July 2022, stories were published regarding the matter of McMahon's multiple NDAs with various women associated with WWE and others. Miss Grant did not receive another payment under her NDA in February of 2023. Right, so now he's breaking the NDA.
Yeah.
Further, despite assurances from McMahon that he would cover her medical care and the costs associated with her tax liability for the $1 million payment, McMahon has refused to cover those costs. McMahon continued to pay for Miss Grant's medical care until April 15th, 2022, when it abruptly ceased. Yeah, he essentially just gave her loads of gifts. This doesn't really need to be read out, like BMWs and Bloomingdale gift cards and whatnot. In January of 2021, Miss Grant sent a message to resident manager stating that she was miserable at WWE. I don't say it to Vince, but as grateful as I am for my job and my salary, I actually am miserable. Mismanaged all the time. They admit they don't know what to do with me. Nobody gave a fuck when I was harassed and retaliated against, to the point of my reputation was questioned and my work was taken away. As further alleged throughout this complaint, Miss Grant was frequently referred to as Mr. McMahon's bitch. On multiple occasions, Miss Grant objected to this treatment. As alleged herein, Miss Grant was being routinely directed by McMahon to engage in sexual contact with other men. Miss Grant had expressed her apprehension about McMahon's fantasy text manifesting and graduating into reality. So the rest of these is all with regards to the NDA and what he violated, which we've already kind of read through, so there's no point in going over it again. But essentially, if any of that is to be believed, and this is the tip of the iceberg, WWE is in for a world of problems. Because if this is just the beginning and there's a bunch of shit's about to come out, WWE, Vince McMahon had a lot of WWE wrestlers that were very close to him.
Yeah.
And this isn't the first time somebody has alluded to the fact that he might be a little bit sex crazed. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because they've only just signed a brand new deal.
It just makes you wonder, though. There might be some people that didn't know about it and are so disgusted and want to walk away. But I think anyone who walks away now is also going to look suspicious.
Yeah, depending on how powerful they are, it's going to look very suspicious.
Yeah.
If it's just like a regular wrestler that just wants to step, then I doubt Vince is going to have like jobbers, for example, doing this behind closed doors. Although who knows? Who knows how bad the corruption goes in the WWE? It's very, very disappointing, because like I said, I grew up watching the WWE. I still watch it. I don't watch it every single week just because I ain't got time. But the Royal Rumble was on the other day. I sat in bed watching it. It was a really good show. It was a lot of fun. And I'm probably going to watch WrestleMania. I enjoy going to the events whenever they're here. If what I'm hearing is true, and TKO are really worried about what's going to happen now because of their reputation, they might end up gutting everybody that was close to Vince McMahon. That would include Triple H. That would include Shawn Michaels. That would include basically everyone that's making the ship work right now, because since Vince has been gone, it's been really good. The product's been really good. But if they all knew about this and they weren't saying anything, then they enabled it as well. No matter how powerful Vince is, what she has alleged in this court hearing is insane. I don't know what to say. It's just disappointing.
Yeah, it's a lot to digest, if I'm honest.
Yeah. I don't think she's making it up though.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I think maybe she's lying about her part. You know, like what she kind of made herself sound super innocent throughout the entire thing.
Yeah.
I think maybe that part she might be bending the truth a little bit, but I think she is only bending the truth. I think that Vince probably is a monster. Even though I grew up watching this guy, even though I think he had one of the best villainous characters on TV, you can't defend this. I used to be one of those people that could separate the art from the person, but I don't think I am anymore, because even with R. Kelly, I think his music is good, but I don't play it anymore because I do believe he did what they say he did. And
R. Kelly 100% is not innocent.
Oh yeah, 100%. I don't believe he's innocent, but I won't play his music for that reason. Michael Jackson, on the other hand, I don't believe them with Michael Jackson.
Yeah, leave Michael out of this.
Yeah, so with Michael, unless there's irrefutable evidence, and if there actually was evidence, I would, even though he's my favorite musician, I wouldn't play his music anymore. I can't separate the art from the person. I can't even, The Flash came out. It was like on the cinemas late last year.
Yeah.
I refuse to watch it because of Ezra Miller. I've never seen the Flash film that came out, and I can't do it. If I know that you're doing some shit like that, I just can't bring myself to separate.
Because you can't enjoy it anymore. The enjoyment's been taken out of it because you're just thinking of what a bad person they are.
Yeah, and there's levels to things, like people can do bad things. Like there can be drug addiction and that. I can always forgive someone for that, as long as they haven't hurt other people. Because I think Robert Downey Jr. had problems with drugs and he turned it around. I've got nothing against people that go through a hard time with alcohol, drugs, or personal problems. But when you're doing this to children or women or coercing men or whoever it is, using your power to do bad things, I'm just not really interested. There's crimes I can definitely say, okay, we can let this go now. It's been a long time. They've clearly demonstrated. But this is too much. There's no coming back from this.
Someone like this needs taken down, but I think my only issue is that he's old.
Yeah, he's gonna kick the bucket.
And this should have happened to him years ago. But we need to just see how this unfolds, because at the moment this is only since 2019 essentially.
Yeah.
So we need to know if there was more prior to this. So we are gonna keep up to date with like what's going on and watch it all unfold.
Yep.
And see what the actual conclusion is. But I think it's going to be a long journey. Look at like the whole Andrew. Can we mention Andrew Tate on YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the whole Andrew Tate thing is quiet at the moment. We're still waiting to hear. So this is just the beginning. I think let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on this as well.
Yeah, because I did see some people saying that she's to blame.
I think those people have got to be somewhat sick in their head as well. Look, there's no way that everything she's explained there is all false and all lies. So some of it has got to be true, if not all of it is true, that he's done. And even if only one part was true that he done, it's still absolutely disgusting and vile. So
yeah, it's pretty bad what's in there. The one good thing that would come from this is, even though Vince is really old and he could kick the bucket any day now, all the people connected to him that were doing this that might be much younger,
they're all going down.
They're all going to get outed as well. And
yeah,
as they should. Now, for people like Stephanie and Triple H, if they knew about it and they weren't taking part, but they couldn't speak up because of how powerful he is, I don't know how you handle that. But for the people like John Laurinaitis or the other people that were involved, these unnamed people in here, they should all be taken down.
I just think anyone associated with him will be silenced so quickly. I mean, look at her. She went through this whole thing because she will be silenced. You will lose everything. And for these people, if it's not affecting them and they just have to turn a blind eye to it for the sake of saving their career and everything, then they're going to do that. Yeah.
I think it's ironic that his theme song is called No Chance in Hell. It's crazy, man. Literally, Mr. McMahon that we watched on TV, the villainous boss, was actually just him.
He was actually a real life villain.
Yeah, like you see all these characters in the WWE and you're like, oh, they're not really like that in real life. Like Rhea Ripley, for example, apparently she's like a sweetheart, but on TV she's like a like a brute, like she beats up all the other girls. That's a character. But Mr. McMahon doing those crazy things to girls on TV, putting girls in bra and panties matches, making them lap dance for him on live TV, making out with wrestlers in front of his wife. That was just an extension of him.
Yeah.
He was living out his fantasies because he was the boss and nobody could stop him.
And he can, yeah.
Did you know that he almost greenlit a storyline? His daughter had to stop him, an incest storyline of his daughter.
Shut up.
Yeah. Him and Stephanie were going to run an incest storyline, and Stephanie was like, well, no. His own daughter.
I wouldn't be surprised if he has done stuff to her.
Yeah,
I'm not here to start rumors. I'm just saying personally, I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised if anything came about Vince. I'd go, yeah, that sounds like Vince. I don't know the guy personally, but I think I've seen enough of him on TV. And so many people have said things about him. Is there a chance that this is all fabricated? Of course. Do I think that chance is astronomically tiny? Yes. I'm sorry. I'm not one of those people that is like believe all victims, but in this instance, it's harder to believe that Vince didn't do these things. So that's my 2 cents in it. You guys let us know what you think in the comments section.
Yeah.
And we'll bring you updates as and when they come.